Mushue leaned against the curtain. Downstairs, the girl's screams grew more agonizing by the second. Yet Linny was right, her eyes kept darting toward their building. This was no panicked, desperate scanning for help, it was aiming, like a sniper waiting for a target to show themselves. Linny, are we just going to leave her out there? We're not leaving her. Linny pulled the twin Gale blades out of his spatial storage and tucked them at his waist. But we're not going to save her. We're going to confront whoever's backing her. Mushue parted her lips to say something, then swallowed her words back down. Linny shot her a glance. Stay here. Lock all the doors and windows tight. No matter what noises you hear, don't step foot outside. You're going alone? If both of us go, who's going to be the bait? Linny walked to the door, shifted the cabinet aside, and pulled it open to step out. The stairwell was pitch black. He lightened his footsteps as he descended, unleashing his full mental power to blanket the entire building and the street out front. He could clearly pinpoint the girl's position. 7 E-grade zombies surrounded her in a half-circle, leaving a single gap facing their apartment building. That gap was no accident. It was her planned escape route, and also the entry path meant for anyone rushing over to rescue her. Linny didn't head for the main entrance. He circled to the side of the building, climbed out through a broken window, and crept along the wall. The Gale boots barely made a sound against the gravel, their +20 movement speed letting him move as swift as a gust of wind. 30 seconds later, he reached the far side of the bus. The girl's performance was still going strong. Help! Is anyone there? Save me! She slammed an iron pipe into a zombie's shoulder. The creature stumbled back, and 2 more lunged at her from the flanks. The girl's reactions lagged half a beat. One zombie snagged the strap of her backpack. She wrenched free violently, tearing half the pack open and spilling its contents across the pavement. A water bottle, crackers, and a C-grade longsword clattered out. The sword hit the ground with a crisp metallic ring. The girl didn't spare the blade a single glance, continuing to swing her iron pipe wildly. Linny crouched behind the bus, watching every detail unfold. She ignored the sword because she knew it was a prop. In this zombie-encircled zone, no rational survivor would overlook a genuine C-grade weapon unless she had no need for it at all. Unless that sword was only meant for others to see. Linny drew the twin shadow blades from his storage, gripped them in his hands, and stood upright. Don't worry. I'm coming to save you. He shouted and charged toward the girl. A tiny twitch tugged at the corner of her mouth. It wasn't fear. It was a smile. Linny saw it crystal clear. He closed in beside her and slashed with one shadow blade. A zombie's head flew clean off its shoulders. A second slash cleaved another's neck half open, splattering sickly green-gray blood everywhere. Linny held back his mental power. He had no idea how powerful the people behind this woman might be. Slade E-grade mutant creature ×2, EXP +20, level 4, EXP required for next level, 930. The girl edged closer to Linny, her voice still trembling. Thank you. I thought I was going to die. It's fine, come with me. Linny grabbed her arm and sprinted toward an alley. While he dragged her along, her eyes swept every inch of their surroundings. The alley was narrow, walled off on both sides, with only 2 openings, front and back. Linny pulled her less than 20 meters inside before skidding to a halt. The girl stopped too. What's wrong? She asked. Linny turned to face her. Where are your accomplices? Her expression stiffened for a split second before she feigned confusion. What accomplices? Your partners. Linny stowed the shadow blades and drew the twin Gale blades instead. The 2 B-grade weapons glinted coldly in the dim light. You had a C-grade longsword on the ground yet chose to beat zombies with an iron pipe. You hid your backpack behind the bus and let the zombies tear it open on purpose, all to make anyone rushing to save you spot that sword and think you're loaded with loot. The girl's face turned icy cold. You're a decent actress, Linny said. But you missed one tiny detail. What detail? Your boots. Linny nodded at her feet. You're wearing D-grade boots etched with silence runes. Anyone with gear like that wouldn't get cornered by 7 E-grade zombies. The girl glanced down at her footwear, then laughed. It was nothing like her fake, frightened smile from earlier. A cold, genuine, almost malicious grin spread across her face. Fine, looks like I've run into an expert. She tossed the iron pipe onto the ground and brushed dust off her palms. Since you've figured everything out, I'll drop the act. She blew a sharp whistle. Figures poured out of both ends of the alley at once. 3 men blocked the front, 3 the back, each wielding a random assortment of weapons, machetes, iron pipes, and more. Their leader was a bald man with a snake tattoo coiled around his neck, gripping a D-grade broadsword and grinning at Linny. "Kid, sharp eyes you've got there." The bald man licked his lips. "But what good sharp eyes gonna do you? You're alone, we're 7. How many of us do you think you can take down?" Linny glanced behind him, then ahead, before turning back to the girl. 7 people? 7. The bald man held up 7 fingers. "You've got 2 B-grade blades on you, plus that C-grade sword back there. That's enough loot to keep our crew set for ages. Hand over all your gear, and we'll spare your life." Linny said nothing. He pulled the remaining 2 Gale blades out of his spatial storage. For B-grade short swords, 2 clutched in his hands, 2 floating suspended in mid-air before his chest. The bald man's grin froze solid at the sight of the levitating blades. You have an A-rank talent?" Linny ignored the question and turned to the girl. "What's your name?" The girl hesitated. "Zhou Yan." "Zhou Yan. Didn't you check the leaderboards before trying to rob people?" Zhou Yan froze and hastily pulled up her system panel. The second-place name blazed clear across the rankings. Linny Region A123 Rank 2. Zhou Yan's face strained of all color in an instant. She stared up at Linny, her lips quivering. "You're second on the leaderboard?" Linny smiled. "Any guess why I played along with your little trap earlier?" Zhou Yan stumbled a step backward. "Because my teammate's up there too." Linny called up toward the second-floor window. "Su Muxue, come down." The upstairs window creaked open. Su Muxue climbed out and landed lightly on the pavement. She wore B-grade armor, with baby dragon Xiaobao perched on her shoulder, wings spread, hissing aggressively at Zhou Yan. When Zhou Yan saw Su Muxue's system stats, her legs nearly buckled beneath her. Su Muxue Region A123 Rank 10, 10th place on the leaderboards. Zhou Yan whipped her head toward the bald man, who'd also pulled up his panel. His rank was 437. Without a second thought, the bald man hurled his sword to the ground. "Brother, it's all a misunderstanding, just a huge mix-up." Linny glanced at him, then back to Zhou Yan. "How many people have you robbed?" Zhou Yan stayed silent. "I asked you, how many survivors have you looted?" Linny's voice dropped to an icy tone. Zhou Yan chewed her lip before muttering quietly, 9. 9? Su Muxue's voice rose sharply. "You robbed 9 different people?" "We only took supplies. We never killed anyone." The bald man rushed to explain. "I swear it's true. We'd let them leave after stripping them clean, as long as they didn't put up a fight. Stripping them of everything and leaving them stranded in a zombie-infested zone is no different from killing them." Su Muxue's voice shook with anger. The bald man fell silent. Lin Yi made no move to attack. He recalled the 4 floating short swords and stared at the 7 robbers for several long seconds. "Hand over all your food and water, set them on the ground." The bald man stared blankly. "I said, put all your rations and water bottles on the pavement." Lin Yi repeated the order. "Don't make me say it a third time." The bald man gritted his teeth and pulled 2 water bottles and a pack of crackers from his backpack. The rest followed suit, piling a small heap of supplies between them. Lin Yi nodded at the pile. "Su Muxue, store these away." Su Muxue stepped forward and stowed everything in her spatial storage, never once glancing at the terrified group. Zhou Yan watched their supplies get taken away, her face turning green with rage, yet she dared not utter a single word. Lin Yi turned to walk out of the alley, then paused after 2 steps. "Oh right, I almost forgot to tell you all something." The bald man swallowed hard. "Have you seen the new system quest? Stage 1. Zombie Siege, 10 days long. Zombies can track human scents." The bald man and Zhou Yan exchanged panicked glances. Lin Yi nodded toward the alley exit behind them. "Take a deep breath, smell that faint sweetness in the air?" The bald man drew in a huge lungful of air. A sickly sweet tang lingered, like rotting overripe fruit. It was the stench of zombies. They were surrounded. Dozens of zombies, at least 50, had gathered outside the alley without them noticing. Their gray-green flesh pressed tightly together in the dim light, every single one facing the narrow passage, jaws opening and closing as gurgling, unintelligible noises rumbled from their throats. The bald man's knees gave out, and he dropped straight to the ground. "Brother, you can't do this. You took all our food and water, and the whole street's swarming with zombies. How are we supposed to survive?" Lin Yi didn't glance back over his shoulder. "When you robbed those 9 survivors, did you stop to wonder how they'd stay alive?" Su Muxue followed him out of the alley, pausing for a split second as she stepped past the entrance. She glanced back at Zhou Yan. The girl huddled against the wall, knees pulled tight to her chest, tears streaming down her face. Sumu Xue stared for 2 heartbeats, then turned and kept walking beside Lin Yi. The horde of zombies automatically parted to clear a path for them. It was not fear of Lin Yi. They instinctively sensed a deadly threat emanating from the spiritual energy of the water spirit heart. The aura of an A-grade inheritance naturally suppressed all low-tier mutant creatures. Even so, Lin Yi swept through the approaching zombies and instantly eliminated them all with his mental power. EXP plus 630. Name: Lin Yi level 4. EXP required for next level 300. The two fought their way clear of the horde and turned onto a side street before Sumu Xue finally halted. Lin Yi had never intended to rescue anyone. He'd only played along for the experience points to level up. Lin Yi. Just now, watching all those zombies close in on them, I didn't feel an ounce of pity at all. Lin Yi looked over at her. Sumu Xue's eyes were red-rimmed, but no tears fell. I wasn't always like this. I used to feel sorry for stray cats, hurt seeing strangers suffer. But when I watched Zhou Yan squat there crying against the wall, all I could think was that she deserved it. Lin Yi said nothing and handed her a bottle of water. Sumu Xue took it, but didn't drink. Lin Yi, have I changed for the worse? You have, Lin Yi replied. But it's not a bad thing. Why not? Because this cruel world won't spare you just because you're kind. Lin Yi met her gaze. You've simply learned how to protect yourself. Sumu Xue stared down at the water bottle in her hands, falling silent for a long stretch of time. Xiaobao fluttered off her shoulder and nuzzled her cheek, letting out a tiny chirp. Sumu Xue stroked the little dragon's head and drew a deep breath. Let's go find a new safe haven. The pair walked along the empty street. Lin Yi opened his system panel to read the newly released quest. System quest: Urban Survival, Stage 1, Stage Title, Zombie Siege, Duration, 10 days. Quest objective: survive 10 days while tracked by zombie scent detection. Every survivor's unique scent acts as an unremovable, unmaskable tracking marker for all undead. Survival tips: seek covered shelter, build fortifications, team up with other survivors. Stage rewards: scaled payout based on total days survived and zombie kill count. Countdown remaining: 9 days, 23 hours, 47 minutes. Lin Yi pulled up his Water Spirit Heart panel next. Water Spirit Heart, a grade inheritance item. Effect 1, Water Affinity, automatically purifies all water sources within a 10-meter radius. Effect 2, Fountain of Life, generates 500 milliliters of spirit water daily. Quality rises alongside the wielder's level. Effect 3, suppresses all zombies below D grade within the current zone. D and E grade zombies will not initiate attacks against you. Zombies will be able to follow our scent non-stop for 10 full days. That means one thing. Wherever we go, the horde will follow us? Exactly. Lin Yi pointed toward the crossroads ahead. And it won't just be a handful, whole swarms will keep pouring in if we stay in one spot too long. Sumu Xue scanned the dense rows of buildings lining both sides of the street, a sudden thought striking her. Does that mean we can't settle down anywhere for long? That's why the quest objective is to seek a new shelter, Lin Yi explained. The system is forcing us to keep moving. If we linger in a single location past a certain threshold, the zombie numbers will grow to an unmanageable horde. What do we do then? Lin Yi lifted Sumu Xue high into the air with his mental power to survey the surrounding landscape. His mental power could now manipulate objects weighing up to 200 kilograms, making it effortless to suspend both of them mid-air. Lin Yi's gaze locked onto a villa complex in the distance. The two headed east down the street. Lin Yi walked in front, his mental power fully active to scan every building and stretch of road 50 meters ahead. Sumu Xue followed behind, Xiaobao poking his head out of her pocket, his eyes darting curiously everywhere. After roughly 15 minutes of walking, they rounded a street corner and the villa district came into full view. It was a genuine upscale villa compound. Every home was a standalone single-family residence with red brick walls, white trim, and iron fencing. Many front yards once held gardens, though all the flowers had long withered away, leaving only dead branches and waist-high overgrown weeds. But Lin Yi's attention wasn't on the neglected greenery. His eyes fixed on the tall perimeter wall encircling the entire complex. A concrete barrier over 3 meters high, topped with barbed wire. A metal gate marked the main entrance. It stood ajar, its lock smashed to pieces, hanging crookedly off its frame to leave a narrow gap. This wall was built to hold back zombies. Lin Yi stepped forward and ran a hand across its surface, dotted with countless scratch marks and dried dark red bloodstains. Sumu Shue wandered over to examine it too. Did people live here once? More than just live here. Lin Yi nodded toward the largest villa deep inside the compound. Look at that one at the very back. It stood 3 stories tall, covering a floor space of at least 300 square meters. Its most striking feature was a second independent wall circling the property, over 2 meters high, strung with intact electric fencing. The power grid was offline, but all its hardware remained undamaged. They turned this villa into a fortress. Lin Yi pushed open the broken metal gate and stepped inside, sweeping the entire compound with his mental power. Zombies were sparse within the complex, scattered in small groups of around 20 total, all ordinary E-grade undead. Lin Yi manipulated his floating daggers with mental power to clear them out silently. He came to a halt outside the gate of the fenced, electrified villa. Something registered on his mental sense. There was something inside the house, far more dangerous than a regular zombie. Sumu Shue stepped back outside the perimeter wall. Sumu Shue clutched Xiao Bao and retreated beyond the concrete barrier. Lin Yi drew a deep breath and pushed open the villa's front door. The living room stretched wide, its crystal chandelier shattered across the floor. Sofas and coffee tables lay overturned, and a massive jagged claw mark ran down the wall from ceiling to floor. A towering figure stood dead center of the room. Over 2 meters tall, its body rippled with rock-hard bulging muscle, black veins snaking across its gray flesh. Its head was 3 times the size of a regular zombie's, its mouth split wide open to its earlobes, lined with rows of jagged serrated fangs. It slowly twisted around at the sound of the door creaking open. Its eyes burned solid blood red, no pupils visible, like 2 smoldering red lanterns. System alert. Detected B-grade mutant creature, zombie tyrant. Traits: extreme strength, high defense, moderate movement speed. Weak points: head, neck. HP: 1000 ATK, 500 def, 500 SPD, 50 kill rewards. EXP plus 1500, talent shard times 5, mutant core times 1, points plus 5000. System reminder. B-grade weapon base attack power equals 500, C-grade weapon base attack power equals 100, D-grade weapon base attack power equals 50. This was the first mutant creature Lin Yi had encountered with numerical stat values displayed. He pulled up the regional system panel next. Current region, A123, survivor population, 4,120,934. Nearly 900,000 people have died on just the first day of survival. Clearly human casualties have grown so massive the system started quantifying zombie stats for us. Otherwise reckless fools would keep rushing in to get themselves killed. Sumu Shue caught sight of the system alert floating in midair from outside the doorway. A B-grade monster Mercedes? Lin Yi, get out of there. Don't face it alone inside. Lin Yi stayed put inside the villa. Wait for me out here a little while. Lin Yi's tone was utterly calm, not a trace of panic to be found. He fixed his gaze on the zombie tyrant, and the corners of his mouth slowly tugged upward. B-rank, 1,500 experience points, 5 talent shards, 1 mutant core. Was there any monster more rewarding than this Mercedes? The zombie tyrant let out a low roar and slammed its left fist downward with devastating force. Lin Yi dodged sideways. The fist crashed into the marble floor, punching a deep crater straight through it. Its strength was truly monstrous, but its speed. Lin Yi drew the twin gale blades from his spatial storage and slashed 2 streaks of sword chi forward. The energy struck the tyrant's chest, leaving only faint white scratches on its flesh. Your defense is absurdly high. I'd never even scratch you without B-grade weapons. Lin Yi narrowed his eyes. He switched tactics, coating the twin gale blades with iron-tailed lizard venom pulled from his storage. Then he activated the Gale Boot skill, Sprint, boosting his movement speed for 10 full seconds. His figure blurred instantly. The tyrant threw punch after punch, every single one missing by a wide margin. Its attack speed could not keep pace with Lin Yi's fluid movements at all. Lin Yi circled around to its rear, drew the twin shadow blades, and unleashed Shadow Strike. In the blink of an eye, he teleported directly behind the beast, driving both blades deep into its neck simultaneously. Venom seeped into the wounds, and black smoke began billowing from the tyrant's throat. Roar! The zombie tyrant let loose a deafening, earth-shaking scream, flailing its left arm wildly backward. Lin Yi pulled his blades free and stepped back 2 paces, easily evading the wild swing. The venom corroded the neck wound wider and wider, thick black blood gushing out nonstop. The tyrant's health bar plummeted visibly before his eyes. Yet it was still not dead. It spun around, blood-red eyes locked onto Lin Yi, and opened its maw to spew a cloud of black mist. Lin Yi had no idea what the mist was, but every instinct screamed at him to avoid contact. He seized a nearby sofa with his mental power and hurled it forward to block the cloud. The moment the fabric touched the mist, it began melting away, dissolving into a puddle of black sludge within seconds. Shit. Lin Yi scrambled backwards several paces. This thing can spit corrosive sludge, Mercedes? After expelling the mist, the tyrant looked noticeably weakened, its movements far slower than before. Seizing the opening, Lin Yi activated Shadow Strike once more. This time, he did not stab its neck. He drove both blades straight down its gaping throat. The twin blades pierced all the way through its skull from the inside of its mouth. The zombie tyrant's body stiffened. Its crimson eyes flickered twice, then dimmed completely. Boom. The 2-meter-tall colossus crashed heavily to the ground, shaking the entire villa on its foundations. Slade B- grade mutant creature, zombie tyrant. XP plus 1,500, talent shard times 5, mutant core times 1, points plus 5,000. Current points leaderboard, first place, Lin Yi, 5,730 points. Second place, Qin Shuang, 2,750 points. Third place, Wang Minglin, 2,340 points. Level up. Name, Lin Yi. Level 5, Constitution, 200, Human Hard Cap, 100, Brain Domain Expansion, 300. Unique. Sanity, 75. Warning. Sanity below 10 induces unconsciousness. Sanity at 0 results in brain death. Talent, Universal Mental Physique, S grade, Telekinetic Object Manipulation, current max manipulable weight, 400 kilograms, spatial storage capacity, 480 cubic meters, current EXP, 1,200/1,500. Su Muxue rushed through the front door, eyes landing on the fallen tyrant's corpse. She circled the massive body once, clicking her tongue in awe. It's absolutely enormous. How did you take it down earlier, Mercedes? Lin Yi ignored the question and knelt to harvest materials from the carcass. Obtained, tyrant blood times 2, tyrant bone times 4, mutant core times 1. What's a mutant core, Mercedes? Su Muxue leaned in to ask. Lin Yi held the core up for her to examine. It was a fist-sized black crystal, with liquid-like substances swirling inside, emanating a faint dim red glow. Mutant core, B grade, may be used to upgrade weapons, armor, or evolve pets. Pet evolution. Lin Yi glanced down at Xiaobao tucked inside Su Muxue's pocket. The baby dragon poked its head out, fixated on the core, its eyes blazing bright like 2 light bulbs. Xiaobao wants that, Su Muxue said. He can't have it. This is a B grade core, and he's only a C grade hatchling right now. His body can't digest it. Lin Yi stowed the core back into storage. We'll save it until he matures. Xiaobao let out a disgruntled chirp and retracted his head back into the pocket. Lin Yi stood and scanned the villa's interior. The main living area was spotlessly clean. He headed up to the second floor next. Every essential supply was fully stocked, even brand new bottles of body wash and shampoo lined the bathroom shelves. He also found unopened skincare products in the washroom. No girl could resist taking care of her appearance, after all. The villa boasted a vast living room, all bedrooms on the second floor, and a rooftop terrace on the third. Best of all, a storage shed out back was crammed full of food supplies. It was clear the previous residents had perished long before their stockpile ran dry. Canned goods, compressed biscuits, mineral water, instant noodles. Most were ordinary rations with no spiritual energy buffs. Yet in this famine-stricken urban survival zone, they were worth more than gold. Staring at mountains of provisions filling the shed, Su Muxue's eyes grew watery. Are we loaded now, Mercedes? Completely loaded. Lin Yi hauled crate after crate into his spatial storage. Half of the 60 cubic meter space was filled to capacity. This is more than enough. We'll leave the rest here for now. This villa will be our permanent stronghold from now on. He inspected the perimeter power grid and found only a disconnected power source. All the hardware remained intact. Lin Yi pulled steel cable from storage to rig a makeshift temporary circuit, repurposing iron-tailed lizard venom glands as biological batteries. The bioelectricity from the glands powered the fence for a limited time, enough to activate the grid temporarily. Electric fence activated. Defense plus 100, knocks back E-grade and D-grade zombies on contact. Sumusue stood beside the outer wall, listening to the fence hum with current, a powerful sense of safety washing over her. Lin E, don't tell me you used to work as an electrician before the apocalypse, Mercedes? I really didn't. Then how do you know how to fix everything, Mercedes? Lin E stowed his tools and brushed dust off his palms. I've read plenty of books. You don't have to raise pigs to know how they run, after all. Aloe drifted out from within the water spirit heart, glancing over the villa's overall layout. For once, he offered genuine praise. This location is excellent, easy to defend and hard to breach. Reinforce the outer walls further, and we'll easily survive the full 10 days of the siege. System announcement: Urban Survival Stage 1, Zombie Siege, duration, 10 rules. Zombies detect human scent and actively track survivor positions. Zombie hordes will continuously multiply over time. Stage objective: survive 10 full days, locate new shelters to fortify defenses. Countdown remaining, night 57. After reading the announcement, Linny walked into the master bedroom on the second floor and pulled back the curtains. The dying glow of sunset flooded the room, painting the entire city in deep crimson hues. Down the distant streets, far more zombies wandered than earlier. They roamed aimlessly, letting out guttural growls every now and then. 10 days. Linny leaned against the window frame. Stage 1 lasts 10 days. We have no clue what Stage 2 or 3 will bring. But no matter what challenges await us, we have to stay alive through all of it. Sumusue stood beside him, Xiao Bao curled up on her shoulder. The baby dragon yawned toward the sunset before tucking itself back down. Lin E, I'm a Mercedes? Do you think other survivors will come looking for us, Mercedes? Linny thought for a moment. They will. But not anytime soon. He pulled a tin can from storage and pried open the lid. They'll first investigate our strength before making a move. Holding first place on the leaderboard is no trivial title. They won't dare act recklessly without intel. Sumusue took the can and took a mouthful, speaking with her mouth half full. Should we seek them out first, Mercedes? What for Mercedes? Linny cracked open a second can for himself. It's a waste of time. Our top priority right now is securing this villa, grinding experience, and leveling up. Once our strength far outmatches theirs, their arrival won't matter at all. Sumusue nodded and continued eating her rations. Midway through her meal, Xiao Bao suddenly fluttered out of her pocket, hovering mid-air and chirping rapidly and sharply toward the villa's outer walls. Chirp, 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 chirp. The cries were urgent and shrill. Linny set his can aside and strode to the window. A dark shadow darted past outside the perimeter wall. It was no zombie, undead never moved that quickly. It was a human. And there was more than one. Linny narrowed his eyes and unleashed his mental power, tracing the shadow's movement path. The figure circled from the villa's east side to the west, then halted beneath a tree outside the wall, studying the compound's layout. Looks like we've already got uninvited guests. Linny drew the twin gale blades from storage. Sumusue stood and gripped her twin shadow blades tightly. How many people are out there, Mercedes? One for now. Linny shifted to the other side of the window for a better vantage point. This one's a scout. The rest of their group is hiding nearby. Sure enough, less than 2 minutes later, 3 more dark figures emerged outside the wall. The 4 met up and crouched at the base of the barrier, speaking in hushed whispers. Linny could not make out their words, but his mental power tracked every motion. One of them pulled a circular tool from their backpack, a pair of wire cutters. They're planning to cut through the electric fence, Linny said. Sumusue tensed with anxiety. What do we do, Mercedes? Linny said nothing, retrieving a hunting bow from storage and nocking an arrow. But he did not aim at the 4 intruders. His target was the dead withered tree towering directly above them. Its brittle branches barely clung to the trunk, ready to snap at any moment. He released the string. The arrow buried itself deep into the tree's main trunk with a dull thud. All 4 men snapped their heads upward at once. Then they witnessed something utterly incomprehensible. The tree's branches began shifting on their own. No, not on their own. An invisible force was manipulating them. Linny's mental power coiled around the 3 thickest boughs and slammed them downward with brutal force. Crack! All 3 branches snapped cleanly, crashing straight down onto the 4 men. They scrambled to dodge, but one lagged behind. A branch swept across his back, slamming him flat against the ground. Who's there, Mercedes? Who's watching us up top, Mercedes? A man shouted, craning his neck to stare up at the villa. Linny leaned out the window, moonlight spilling across his face. Before you try cutting my fence, shouldn't you first find out whose territory this is, Mercedes? The four men froze stiff. Lin E leaped down from the second floor, landing lightly directly in front of them, twin gale blades gripped in both hands. You have 3 seconds to get out of my sight. The four exchanged nervous glances, then one young man suddenly let out a mocking laugh. Who do you think you are, Mercedes? Our boss is 9th on the leaderboard. He never finished his sentence. Lin E raised a hand, and his mental power seized the dagger tucked at the youth's waist. The blade flew free of its sheath, hovering 10 centimeters from his face, the tip pointed dead center at his eye. The young man locked up completely, unable to utter a single syllable. Who your boss is means nothing to me. Lin Yi's voice remained calm and flat. But if you don't leave right now, I'll make you learn exactly who I am. The dagger spun once in midair, tip pointing downward, and stabbed into the dirt at the youth's feet. The four scrambled to their feet and fled in a panic. Lin Yi recalled the dagger and turned to head back into the villa. Su Muxue waited for him by the doorway, her eyes shining as he walked inside. You looked incredible back there. Cut the flattery and lock the door. Lin Yi twisted the deadbolt shut. They'll rush back to report to their leader. The real trouble is still coming. Su Muxue double-checked the locks on every window after securing the front door. Do you think their boss will come after us, Mercedes? He will. Lin Yi sank back onto the sofa and picked up his canned food again. 9th place on the leaderboard, he owns at minimum 1 B-grade piece of equipment. He'll never let this villa slip through his fingers easily. What are our odds of winning against him, Mercedes? Lin Yi thought for a second and held up 4 fingers. 40% Mercedes? You'd have to be half asleep to think that low. Lin Yi corrected her. 100%. 100% Mercedes? Su Muxue nearly choked on her food. Didn't you just say the 9th-ranked survivor has at least 1 B-grade weapon, Mercedes? So, what if he has 1 B-grade weapon, Mercedes? Lin Yi pulled 4 B-grade short swords out of storage and lined them up neatly on the coffee table. I've got 4. Su Muxue stared silently at the 4 blades laid out before her. And I've got you on my side too. Lin Yi met her gaze. 10th place, full B-grade armor, a pair of B-grade twin blades. 1 9th-ranked enemy against the 10th and the undisputed 1st. Tell me how we could possibly lose. A flush spread rapidly across Su Muxue's cheeks. It was not his compliment that flustered her, but the unspoken certainty in his eyes. The look that treated her as an unshakable, trusted ally. I'm going to get some sleep. Su Muxue picked up Xiao Bao and hurried upstairs without another word. Lin Yi watched her retreating figure, a faint smile tugging at his lips. He stowed the 4 swords back into storage and walked to the window once more. Out past the outer walls, beneath the dark night sky, the number of zombies flooding the city streets continued to climb without end. They wandered aimlessly, yet their collective drift always headed toward areas with human scent. They smelled humans, and they would hunt the trail relentlessly. In another 2 days, the entire perimeter of this villa could be swarmed by an unstoppable horde. When that day came, we would have to defend against both hostile survivors and endless undead alike. Lin Yi pulled an engineer's notebook from his storage and flipped to the page filled with trap blueprints. The rumble of car engines echoed from outside the compound. 3 vehicles pulled to a stop beyond the outer wall. The doors swung open, and 8 or 9 men climbed out. At their head stood a bald man with a black raven tattoo wrapped around his neck. In his hand, he gripped a long blade shimmering with faint blue light, a genuine B-grade weapon. The bald leader strode to the metal gate, kicked the already hanging door fully open, and marched unhurriedly into the courtyard. He tilted his head upward to stare at the second-floor window. Lin Yi, Mercedes? Come out and talk. Lin Yi pushed the window open, leaning against the frame to look down at the bald man far below. Who are you, Mercedes? Song Ming. Lin Yi nodded faintly. 17th place on the leaderboard, Mercedes? Song Ming's expression flickered with irritation, but he quickly forced a smile back onto his face. Rankings don't matter. I came here today to propose a partnership. Speak your piece. I've set my sights on this villa. Song Ming tapped the ground beneath his feet. Vacate some space for me, and I'll help you fend off the zombie hordes. You hold 1st place, I hold 17th. If we join forces, no survivor in this entire region will dare cross us. And what if I refuse, Mercedes? Song Ming's smile stayed plastered on his face, yet his eyes turned ice cold. Then I'll simply take the villa for myself. Lin Yi studied him for 2 full seconds before breaking into a quiet laugh. He climbed out the window and dropped into the courtyard, stopping less than 3 meters away from Song Ming. Fine. Go ahead and try to take it. Lin Yi unleashed his mental power to its full capacity. All 4 B-grade short swords flew out of storage at once. Hovering in a circle around him, every blade's sharp tip locked directly on Song Ming. Song Ming's grin froze completely. The 8 or 9 men behind him all stepped backward in unison. Song Ming stared at the 4 levitating B-grade weapons before him, his throat tightening until he could barely speak. Just a joke, Brother Lin. Merely a little jest from my men. Song Ming gazed at the 4 floating swords in stunned disbelief. 4 of them. All B-grade. Suspended mid-air with no visible support. His own blue glowing longsword was also B-grade, but he only possessed the single one. It had taken him 10 grueling days of killing survivors, looting supply caches, and scavenging battlefield drops to earn just that one blade. Meanwhile, this young man, who had only arrived in this world 7 days prior, casually summoned 4 at a moment's notice Mercedes? How could you possibly own so many B-grade weapons, Mercedes? Lin Yi ignored the question. He lifted a hand, and the 4 swords rotated once around him, orbiting slowly like miniature satellites. Moonlight glinted off their polished steel surfaces, casting stark pale light across Song Ming's shiny bald scalp. Song Ming felt an overwhelming sense of dread wash over him. All thoughts of fighting vanished entirely from his mind. I didn't quite catch that earlier. Lin Yi tilted his head slightly. You said you were going to take what for yourself, Mercedes? Song Ming's Adam's apple bobbed up and down nervously. 2 of his underlings had already edged quietly a half-step backward. It was not cowardice, but the crushing oppressive aura radiating from the 4 hovering blades. Their tips trembling faintly, like 4 venomous coiled snakes ready to strike at any second. Brother Lin, it's all a misunderstanding. Song Ming drove his blue longsword into the courtyard dirt and raised both hands high in a smooth, submissive gesture. Truly a misunderstanding. I only came to negotiate an alliance, not to seize the villa by force. You call kicking my front gate down negotiating an alliance, Mercedes? Lin Yi nodded toward the broken metal door hanging crookedly off its frame. Song Ming glanced back at the mangled gate, the corner of his mouth twitching awkwardly. I'll make reparations. I'll install a brand new gate for you later. Lin Yi held his gaze on Song Ming for 3 full seconds before retracting his mental power. The 4 swords hung suspended midair, not yet recalled into storage. You claim you're here to discuss a partnership. Very well, let's talk. What exactly is your proposal, Mercedes? Song Ming exhaled in visible relief and took 2 small steps forward, careful not to draw too near. The 4 blades still floated overhead, trained on him without mercy. Brother Lin, you're ranked 2nd on the leaderboard. First place now. Lin Yi cut him off mid-sentence. Song Ming froze for a split second and quickly pulled up his system panel to check. Regional Survivor Leaderboard Lin Yi, 5,730 points Qin Shuang, 3,080 points Xia Yojia, 2,450 points. Song Ming's expression shifted visibly, running through shock, disbelief, and complete surrender in just 3 seconds. Brother Lin, when did you climb to first place, Mercedes? Just now. I took down a B- tyrant and cleared dozens of zombies after that. Lin Yi's tone was as casual as talking about what he'd eaten for dinner. I hadn't planned to rush for the top spot, but the first place rewards have to be better than seconds, so I grabbed it on a whim. Song Ming fell silent. One of his underlings muttered quietly from behind him, on a whim, he just took first place. Brother Lin, now that you're ranked number 1, I'll cut straight to the chase. Song Ming stepped forward another pace and lowered his voice. I want to bring my men to follow you. Lin Yi raised an eyebrow. Follow me, Mercedes? That's right. The zombie hordes keep growing, and no single person can hold out alone. We've got to watch out for other survivors on top of the undead too. Song Ming jerked his chin toward the street entrance. There's another crew over there led by Zhao Lei, 4th on the leaderboard. He's loaded with top-tier gear. If he finds out you've claimed this villa, he'll definitely come looking for trouble. Zhao Lei. Lin Yi knew the name well. That was the guy who'd piggybacked off his iron-tailed lizard kill for the system announcement. Zhao Lei's nearby, Mercedes? He's holed up in the shopping mall 2 kilometers east with 1520 men, scavenging supplies out there every day. Song Ming explained. He tried to take this villa before, but the tyrant inside scared him off. Now that you've eliminated the beast, he's bound to grow envious. Lin Yi molded over and recalled the 4 short swords into his spatial storage. The moment the blades vanished, Song Ming visibly relaxed. Fine, you can stay. Lin Yi turned to walk into the villa. But there are rules. What rules, Mercedes? First, no one sets foot in the main villa building. You lot can stay in the auxiliary outbuilding out back or pitch your own tents. Second, all supplies get distributed uniformly. No hoarding private stashes. Anyone caught hiding goods gets kicked out immediately. Third, Linny paused at the doorway and glanced back at Song Ming. I tell you to kill someone, you kill them. No asking why, no begging to negotiate. If you can abide by that, you stay. If not, leave right now. Song Ming stayed quiet for 2 seconds, then broke into a grin. Brother Lin, I don't have many strengths, but I know how to follow orders. He spun around and shouted to his subordinates, you all heard that. Brother Lin calls all the shots from now on. Anyone who disobeys will be the first one I throw to the zombies. The underlings exchanged nervous glances, then nodded in unison. Su Muxue watched the entire scene from the second-floor window. When Lin Yi walked inside, she leaned over the banister to look down at him. You're really letting them stay, Mercedes? For the time being. Aren't you worried they'll stab us in the back, Mercedes? Lin Yi shut the front door and pulled an item out of his spatial storage, a fist-sized transparent crystal glowing with swirling golden light. This was the shelter heart he'd dismantled from the wooden cabin earlier. He knelt down and pressed the crystal into a pre-cut groove in the floor, an indentation clearly built into the villa's original design. The second the crystal locked into place, the entire villa shuddered once. Golden light rippled outward from the crystal's core, spreading across walls, floors, and ceilings like a vast golden spiderweb. Wherever the glow touched, cracks in the walls sealed themselves, shattered glass fused back together, and warped door frames straightened. Su Muxue stared, her mouth hanging open in awe. In less than 10 seconds, the villa looked brand new. System prompt, shelter claimed successfully, current shelter, LV. 7 Manor Villa, defense value, 1250, special buffs, spirit energy recovery speed plus 30, stamina recovery speed plus 20. Unlocked structures, advanced workbench, spirit furnace, auto turret, 2 constructible, shelter boundary, 200 radius. Su Muxue's voice trembled as she read the stats on the system panel. LV.7? 1250 defense? Auto turrets? This is basically a small fortress. Lin Yi stood up and brushed dust off his knees. The instant the shelter upgraded, a warm current surged up through the floor into his body, flowing through his meridians all the way to the top of his head. Another system notification popped up. Detected host shelter reaches LV.7. Talent system activating. Congratulations. Host awakens third talent. Spatial teleport. Stage 1. Spatial teleport. Consumes 1 brain domain expansion point. Instantly teleport to any visible location within 25. Current brain domain expansion. 200. Lin Yi froze for a single second, then laughed, not a faint smile, but a bright, elated laugh like fortune had dropped straight into his lap. Su Muxue shuddered at the sound. What are you laughing about, Mercedes? Lin Yi ignored her question and fixed his gaze on a vase in the living room corner, roughly 20 meters away. He formed a thought. The next heartbeat, he stood beside the vase. Su Muxue rubbed her eyes hard. You just teleported, Mercedes? Lin Yi tested the skill again, targeting the garden outside the villa 15 meters away. Whoosh! He materialized on the lawn, dew soaking the toes of his shoes. Su Muxue leaned fully against the window rail, utterly dumbfounded. You can really teleport, Mercedes? Lin Yi tilted his head up to meet her gaze, a wide smirk tugging at his lips. 25 meters per jump, costs 1 brain domain point. I've got 200 points right now. He paused. That means I can teleport 200 times in a row. Aloe drifted out from the water spirit heart and circled Lin Yi once, his expression complicated. Universal mental physique, spatial storage, spatial teleport. Did you build your talent loadout purely for running away, Mercedes? Running away, Mercedes? Lin Yi shook his head. Teleport isn't for fleeing. Then what's it for, Mercedes? Lin Yi pulled out his twin gale blades and weighed them in his hands. So my opponents will never guess where I'll appear the next second. Lin Yi then handed his gale boots over to Su Muxue. His constitution had hit 200 now, granting him incredible base speed on top of teleportation. The extra 20 movement boost from the boots was no longer necessary for him. It would keep her far safer. Lin Yi felt completely confident that ordinary zombies posed zero threat to him anymore. Lin Yi called Song Ming over again. Brother Lin, what are your orders, Mercedes? You said Zhao Lei's hold up in the shopping mall 2 kilometers east, Mercedes? Lin Yi leaned against the front gate, twirling a dagger between his fingers. That's right, Times Square Mall. He's taken over the second floor sporting goods section, spacious, perfect for a base. How many men does he have, Mercedes? 15 or 16 total, including himself. 5 or 6 core fighters, all equipped with C-grade or higher gear. Linny nodded. Do you have bad blood with him, Mercedes? Song Ming thought it over. Not outright enemies. He tried to pressure me into merging our crews before, and I turned him down. His men and mine occasionally clash over scavenging spots, but no one's drawn blood yet. Well, there will be after tomorrow. Lin Yi stowed the dagger. We're going to see him tomorrow. Song Ming nearly dropped his compressed biscuit. Go see him, Mercedes? What for Mercedes? To talk. Talk about what, Mercedes? His surrender or his death. Lin Yi spoke the words with complete nonchalance. There can only be one dominant faction in this area. Song Ming swallowed hard. He wanted to say Zhao Lei was no easy target, but the words died in his throat. The man standing before him was the #1 ranked survivor wielding 4 B-grade weapons. No matter how strong Zhao Lei was, he couldn't possibly compare to that arsenal. Brother Lin, can I ask you something, Mercedes? Speak. How strong are you really, Mercedes? The leaderboard only shows points. There's no way to gauge actual combat power. Lin Yi held up 3 fingers. Just 3 talents. Song Ming's jaw dropped. 3 talents, Mercedes? His underlings overheard and poked their heads out of the tents, all wearing identical stunned expressions. In this world, almost everyone only possessed a single talent. 3 talents was equivalent to spawning with 2 extra lives from the start. That spatial storage trick where you pull items out of thin air, is that one of your talents too, Mercedes? Song Ming's voice cracked with shock. Lin Yi didn't answer. Instead, he pulled an ironwood spear from his storage, jabbed it into the ground once, then put it away again. Song Ming drew a deep breath and roared toward the tents. Listen up, all of you. Brother Lin's every word is absolute law from now on. Anyone who harbors disloyal thoughts, I'll personally toss them to the zombie hordes. The underlings shouted in unison, understood. Su Muxue stood behind the second-floor window watching the scene and couldn't help smiling. She glanced down at Xiao Bao curled up asleep in her pocket, a scrap of dried meat clamped in his tiny jaws. Hurry and grow up, Xiao Bao. She poked the baby dragon's head. Once you mature, you'll be able to help us fight. Chirp. Xiao Bao rolled over and went back to sleep. Su Muxue tucked him deeper into her pocket and lifted her gaze toward the east. That was Times Square Mall, Zhao Lei's base. Tomorrow, Lin Yi would go there. She had no idea what tomorrow would bring, but she knew one thing for certain. No matter what happened, Lin Yi would not lose. It wasn't blind optimism. Over the days since they'd crossed into this world, she'd watched him pull off the impossible time and time again when everyone else thought failure was inevitable. The incident at the water pool, the ancient ruins, slaying the tyrant, all of them proof. Tomorrow would be no different. Night wind swept through the courtyard, the electric fence humming a low buzz. In the distance, the roars of zombies echoed nonstop across the city, far denser than they'd been during daylight. Lin Yi stood on the villa's second-floor rooftop terrace, hands tucked in his pockets, staring out at the blood-red horizon. Aloe floated beside him. You're really going to confront Zhao Lei tomorrow? Are you certain you can handle him? Lin Yi thought for a moment, pulled the mutant core from his storage, and tossed it lightly between his palms. Zhao Lei's greatest claim to fame is slaying the iron-tailed lizard, right? Yes, the system put out an official announcement about it. Lin Yi smirked. I killed that lizard. He only got his name on the announcement by piggybacking off my kill. Aloe blinked in surprise. Then his actual strength. Paper thin. Lin Yi stowed the core away. How powerful can a man be who only got to 4th place by leeching off other people's victories? Why even waste time going to him then? Lin Yi turned, moonlight washing over his face. It's not a waste. He has an item I need to take from him. What item? A C-grade movement speed footwear reward he claimed from a system milestone. Lin Yi said. It would suit Su Muxue perfectly. Aloe stared at him, silent for 2 full seconds. You feel something special for Su Muxue, don't you? Feel what? Nothing. Aloe retreated back into the water spirit heart. Lin Yi lingered on the terrace a while longer. Inside the villa, Su Muxue knelt by the storage shed door sorting their food supplies. She grouped cans by flavor, stacked compressed biscuits by production date, and lined mineral water bottles into neat uniform rows. Fully absorbed in her work, she didn't even notice Lin Yi walking in. What are you doing? Su Muxue didn't look up. Sorting supplies. Toss out expired stock. Keep what's still good. Look at this can. Its shelf life ran out back in 2020. It's been expired for years. Is it still edible? Theoretically, yes, but I don't want to risk it. Lin Yi knelt down, picked up the can to examine it, then set it back down. Expired cans were trash in their old world, valuable strategic reserves in this one. But they had more than enough food now, no need to gamble on spoiled goods. Still, he decided to hold on to it for later. I'm heading to see Zhao Lei tomorrow. You stay here at the villa. Su Mushue's hands froze mid-sort. Why? I need to test his true strength first. Lin Yi told her. Stay vigilant tomorrow. Try to avoid unnecessary conflict if anyone approaches. Lin Yi shrugged. If he cooperates, there'll be no fight. If he resists, we eliminate him. Su Mushue stared at him, lips parting as if to speak, then held her words back. She bent her head and kept sorting food, speaking after a long pause. That speed boot, you're positive Zhao Lei has it? Lin Yi opened his spatial storage and pulled up the archive system announcements, finding Zhao Lei's reward notice and showing it to her. System announcement. Player Zhao Lei ranked 10th. Reward C-grade equipment Swift boots ×1. Su Mushue lifted her head, her eyes shining bright. It wasn't the boots that excited her. It was the fact Lin Yi had remembered what she needed. You're going all the way there just for me? Lin Yi cleared his throat awkwardly. Not entirely. Testing his strength is the main objective. The boots are just a bonus. Su Mushue smiled softly. If you say it's just a bonus, then I'll take your word for it. She stood, brushed dust off her trousers, and stepped to stand directly in front of him, less than half a meter between them. Xiaobao poked his head out of her pocket, glanced at Lin Yi then back at Su Mushue, and wisely ducked back down again. Lin Yi. Be careful tomorrow going alone. Su Mushue's voice was quiet and gentle. If you can't win, run. You have teleportation, you'll escape easily. Lin Yi nodded. I know. One more thing. Su Mushue hesitated. Can we trust Songming? Not at all. Lin Yi answered bluntly. He's only following us out of fear, not genuine loyalty. While I'm gone tomorrow, keep an eye on him here at the villa. If he dares plot anything treacherous, don't engage him yourself. Wait for me to come back and handle it. Lin Yi pulled his hunting bow out of storage. He usually kept large cumbersome items stowed away since they'd been hauled along, avoiding any risk that they might weigh her down. Songming followed behind with 2 underlings, Xiao Wu and Ahu, both veterans who'd stuck with him for 7 or 8 days. Brother Lin, it's just the 4 of us going? Songming glanced at their small party, growing uneasy. Zhao Lei's got 15 or 16 men over there. Numbers don't mean anything. Lin Yi pulled out the remaining metal arrowheads from his storage and recoated them with venom. Have you ever seen a dungeon boss drag a horde of minions along to clear a map? Songming was left speechless by the boss label, yet he held back any retort. Lin Yi truly possessed the strength to deserve such a title now. The 4 headed east down the street. Far fewer zombies roamed in daylight, most hid inside buildings to escape the sun. With only a handful wandering the roads. Lin Yi cleared any undead blocking their path with his mental power, never letting Songming lift a finger. Songming watched the zombies drop without a clear cause, a chill crawling up his spine. Brother Lin, is this your talent? How far can you control things? Lin Yi didn't glance back. Guess. Songming fell silent, knowing he'd overstepped with his question. After roughly 20 minutes, Times Square came into view. It was a 4-story commercial complex. Most of its glass curtain walls shattered to reveal bare black steel frames within. The open plaza out front was piled high with debris, abandoned shopping carts, toppled lampposts, overturned trash cans, stacked to form a crude makeshift barrier. 2 men stood guard at the plaza entrance, both armed. The moment they spotted Lin Yi's group, they tensed up instantly. Halt! What's your business here? Lin Yi kept walking forward, showing no sign of stopping. The 2 raised their weapons. One wielded an iron pipe, the other a cleaver. Upon checking the system prompt, Lin Yi saw the cleaver marked as D-grade equipment, far stronger than the plain iron pipe. I said stop. 1 more step and I'll attack. Lin Yi came to a halt 5 meters away from them. Songming, Xiao Wu and Ahu stood behind him, hands resting on their own weapons. We're here to see your leader, Zhao Lei. Lin Yi stated. We need to talk. The man with the cleaver sized Lin Yi up and down, his gaze lingering on the twin gale blades at Lin Yi's waist, his pupils constricting sharply. Who are you? Lin Yi. The hand gripping the cleaver trembled. Lin Yi, rank 1 on the survivor leaderboard? That's right. The 2 guards hesitated to test his strength. Lin Yi carried himself with unnerving calm, as if they weren't even worth noticing. They exchanged a quick look. The guard with the iron pipe spun around and sprinted deeper into the plaza, shouting as he ran, "Boss! Boss! Lin Yi's here." The cleaver-wielding guard stayed rooted in place, veins bulging on his knuckles as he gripped the blade. Yet he kept the tip pointed toward the ground, making no move to strike. Lin Yi shot him a brief glance and waited. Less than 2 minutes later, a crowd filed out of the plaza. At their head walked a young man in his early 20s. Wearing a garish baseball jacket with ash-gray dyed hair, wearing an arrogant expression that screamed, "I'm the third strongest alive." He didn't care who ranked first or second, he was convinced he held third place. This was Zhao Lei. Lin Yi had seen his name countless times in system announcements, but this was his first time laying eyes on the man in person. He looked younger than Lin Yi had imagined, yet far more irritating. Zhao Lei reached the plaza gate, hands stuffed in his pockets, tilted his head to study Lin Yi. Then glanced at Song Ming behind him and smirked. "Well, look who it is, Song Ming. Finally come to your senses and beg to merge our crews." Song Ming said nothing, his gaze drifting toward Lin Yi. Zhao Lei followed his line of sight to Lin Yi, his grin fading slightly but not disappearing entirely. "You're Lin Yi." "Yep. Rank 1. Zhao Yi dragged out the words, a faint bitter envy lacing his tone. "I've long heard your name, Brother Lin. What brings you to my territory today?" Lin Yi skipped the polite formalities and cut straight to the point. "I heard you own a pair of Swift boots, C-grade tier." Zhao Lei's expression shifted instantly, from cocky self-assurance to blatant hostility, as if Lin Yi had just announced he planned to steal his gear. "You want my boots?" "I do." Zhao Lei let out a cold scoff and pulled his hands out of his pockets. The dozen men behind him all stepped forward in unison. "Lin Yi, I respect your spot at number 1 and am willing to show you courtesy. But you waltz onto my land with just 3 underlings and demand my equipment." Zhao Lei tilted his head challengingly. "Do you think Zhao Lei is some pushover?" Lin Yi said nothing, merely staring back at him. Zhao Yi grew unsettled under that unwavering gaze, though the crowd of men behind him bolstered his courage. He advanced 2 paces until he stood less than a meter from Lin Yi. "Let me make this clear, rank 1 means nothing here. My 15 men could drown you with a single mouthful of spit each." "You believe me?" Lin Yi finally spoke. "I don't." Zhao Lei's face darkened. "Want to test that?" The second the words left his mouth, all his followers brandished their weapons, blades, steel clubs, axes, even a crossbow. All aimed at Lin Yi and his group. Song Ming's hand clamped tight around the hilt of his blue glowing longsword. Xiao Wu and Ahu's legs shook. Yet they still raised their own weapons to stand their ground. Lin Yi remained perfectly still, rooted to the spot. Zhao Lei ached to give the order to attack, yet he couldn't wrap his head around Lin Yi's unshakable composure. It was as if Lin Yi viewed all of them as insignificant ants. Zhao Lei's hands trembled, not from rage, but from fear. "I'll give you 2 options." Lin Yi held up 2 fingers. "First, hand over the Swift boots and your crew can keep occupying Times Square. If I need assistance later, you will cooperate and you'll be fairly compensated for your help." "What's the second option?" "Second, I'll take them by force myself, then drive every last one of you out of this entire district." Zhao Lei gritted his teeth, glaring furiously at Lin Yi. A burly man named Sun Hao, wielder of the massive greatsword, stepped forward from behind Zhao Lei and leaned in to mutter, "Boss, maybe we should shut up." Zhao Lei snapped, then turned back to Lin Yi. "Who do you think you are? You alone against 15 of us? Do you even have the power to pull that off?" Lin Yi unleashed his mental power to its full limit. The short sword clutched in Zhao Lei's grip suddenly slipped out of his control and floated suspended midair, its sharp tip aimed straight at Zhao Lei's own face. Before Zhao Lei could even activate his talent, he was already staring death in the face. He stumbled backward 2 steps, colliding hard into Sun Hao's chest. Sun Hao lifted his greatsword to slash, but Lin Yi didn't spare him a glance. His telekinesis seized the heavy blade and wrenched it clean out of Sun Hao's grasp. Both weapons hovered aloft, their points locked on their original owners. The air across the plaza turned ice-cold and stagnant. Zhao Lei's legs shook violently, Sun Hao's hands trembled, and every man behind them was overcome with sheer terror. Zhao Lei finally grasped exactly what he was up against. Lin Yi's rank 1 position wasn't luck, nor was it earned by leeching off other people's kills. His strength was overwhelmingly, undeniably superior. He drew a shaky deep breath, pulled the pair of boots out of his backpack, and tossed them onto the ground. "Take them." Linny used his mental power to draw the boots toward him and checked the system prompt. Swift boots, C grade. This was exactly what he'd come for. He stored the footwear in his spatial storage and looked back at Zhao Lei. There's one more thing. Keep your men out of the Western Residential Villa District. That compound is my base. If any of your people draw near, I'll take it as a direct act of raiding. Also, I'll send messengers if I require your aid in the future. Cooperate, and you won't go unrewarded. Zhao Lei ground his teeth, burning with resentment, but eventually nodded in reluctant agreement. Linny turned and left, Song Ming trailing behind him, with Xiao Wu and Ah Hu bringing up the rear. Only once they'd stepped clear of the plaza's bounds did Song Ming dare speak. Brother Lin, what you did back there was absolutely insane. Which part, Mercedes? Controlling his weapons. When that short sword flew up, Zhao Lei's face turned sickly pale. Song Ming slapped his thigh excitedly. You should have seen the rest of his crew, their knees were knocking. Lin ignored his outburst and pulled the swift boots out of storage to examine them. Let's head back. I'm giving these to Su Muxue. Song Ming blinked in shock. You went through all that trouble just to get a pair of shoes for Su Muxue Mercedes? What else would it be for Mercedes? Song Ming opened his mouth to speak, then closed it again. He'd originally meant to say you care far too much about her, but thought better of it and rephrased his question. Brother Lin, will you look out for your brothers like this too, Mercedes? Lin Yi shot him a sideways glance. First master your swordsmanship, then we'll talk. When they returned to the villa, Su Muxue was playing with Xiaobao in the courtyard. The baby dragon could now fly a full meter off the ground. Its flight was still wobbly and unsteady, yet far smoother than the day prior. Spotting Lin Yi walking in, Su Muxue stood and scanned him head to toe. Did you get hurt, Mercedes? Not a scratch. Did you get the boots, Mercedes? Lin Yi pulled the swift boots out of storage and held them out to her. Su Muxue took them, clutching the footwear in silence for several seconds before lifting her head, the rims of her eyes glistening faintly. You actually managed to get them. I told you it was just a minor errand. Su Muxue smiled, slipped the boots onto her feet, and hopped lightly around the courtyard a couple times. Her old Gale boots granted +20 movement speed, and the new Swift boots added another +15. Stacked together, her mobility surged by over 35. Paired with her B-grade armor for defense and B-grade twin blades for damage, Su Muxue's loadout now rivaled, if not surpassed, Xia Youjia, ranked third on the leaderboard. Xiaobao fluttered onto her shoulder, tilted its head to stare at her new shoes, and let out a chirp. Chirp, translation, they look great. Su Muxue scratched the young dragon's head, then walked over to stand before Lin Yi. Thank you. No need to thank me. Lin Yi headed toward the main villa building. Starting tomorrow, you'll come out with me to hunt zombies. These boots drastically boost your ability to escape danger. Su Muxue followed him inside. Hunt zombies, Mercedes? I thought my talent isn't suited for combat. Not being a combat-focused talent doesn't mean you can't fight. Lin Yi picked up a short dagger from the workbench and handed it to her. Practice with this first. Once you grow comfortable, we'll switch to the twin shadow blades. Su Muxue gripped the dagger and took a couple of practice swings. Her movements were stiff and awkward, yet far more controlled than when she'd tried archery a few days earlier. Zombies move extremely slowly, and you're now at least twice as fast as they are. Strike once then retreat, don't overcommit to attacks and you'll stay safe. Lin Yi explained. This afternoon I'll take you out to practice. We'll start by slaying a few E-grade undead. Su Muxue nodded, tightening her grip on the dagger. Xiaobao flew off her shoulder and hovered mid-air, flapping its wings back and forth as if mimicking her sword swings. Lin Yi glanced at the baby dragon, a faint smile tugging involuntarily at the corner of his mouth. Aloe drifted out of the water spirit heart, watching the three of them, Lin Yi, Su Muxue, and the tiny dragon, and let out a long, weary sigh. This is only day 2, and you've already subdued the 2 strongest factions in this district. Give you another 10 days. Are you planning to seize the entire city, Mercedes? Lin Yi thought the question over briefly. It's not entirely out of the question. Aloe rolled its eyes and retreated back into the crystal core. At 2 that afternoon, Lin Yi led Su Muxue out of the villa. Song Ming had wanted to tag along, but Lin Yi ordered him to stay behind. Guard the compound. Don't let any zombies damage the electric fence. Song Ming's mind reeled. I'm a seasoned fighter ranked 17th and you're putting me on watch duty, Mercedes? But he didn't dare voice his complaint. Lin Yi and Su Muxue headed south down the streets, where zombie numbers were denser, ideal for practice. Less than 100 meters out, they encountered their first target. An ordinary E-grade zombie clad in tattered security guard uniform, its head lolling to one side beneath a dead tree. Lin Yi nodded toward it. Go ahead. Su Muxue drew a deep breath, tightened her hold on the dagger, and stepped forward. Catching the scent of living humans, the zombie whipped its head around, let out a guttural roar, and lunged at her. Its movements were sluggish, far slower than Su Muxue had anticipated. She sidestepped the charge and swung the dagger, sinking the blade deep into the zombie's shoulder. The metal lodged fast in bone, stuck tight and impossible to pull free. Lin Yi Mercedes. It stuck. Lin Yi walked over, kicked the zombie stumbling backward, and helped her yank the dagger loose. Aim for the neck, not the shoulders. The neck is thin and easy to sever. Shoulder bones are thick and trap blades. Su Muxue nodded and took another steadying breath. A second zombie shambled out from behind an abandoned bus, wearing a blood-soaked white lab coat, likely a doctor before the apocalypse. Su Muxue didn't hesitate this time. She charged forward, dodged its grab, and sliced her dagger straight for its throat. Crack. The zombie's head flopped sideways, black ichor spraying outward, yet it didn't fall. The cut only bit halfway through, leaving its spinal cord intact. Su Muxue delivered a second decisive slash, finishing the creature off, and it crumpled to the pavement. Slayed E-grade mutant creature ×1, EXP +10. I killed one. Su Muxue jumped up in delight. Keep going. Lin Yi's expression remained impassive. Come celebrate with me once you've slain 100. Su Muxue stuck her tongue out playfully and set off to find the next zombie. Over the course of the afternoon, she took down 17 E-grade undead. She progressed from shaky, clumsy strikes at the start to steady, fluid movements as time passed, her improvement plain to see. While she still lagged miles behind Lin Yi's skill, she was no longer the inexperienced novice who couldn't even hit a target with a bow. By dusk, when they returned to the villa, Su Muxue's clothes were splattered with black zombie blood, smudges of the dark fluid streaked across her cheeks. Still, she wore a bright, childish grin, like a kid who'd just gotten a brand new toy. Lin Yi, I want to come out again tomorrow. All right. Will I get a reward once I hit 100 kills, Mercedes? Lin Yi thought for a second. A new pair of socks. You're so cheap. The pair walked back into the villa compound. Song Ming had lit a campfire in the courtyard, roasting chunks of meat scavenged from somewhere unknown. He stood quickly the moment he spotted Lin Yi's return. Brother Lin, I've got something to report. Speak. I was patrolling the perimeter wall just now and spotted a massive horde of zombies advancing this way from the east. At least 200 of them, including D-grade variants, possibly even C-grade ones mixed in. Lin Yi climbed up onto the wall and gazed toward the eastern horizon. Countless tiny black figures packed the distant streets, flowing like a sluggish yet unstopping river, steadily converging on the villa. A system announcement popped up before his eyes. System announcement, Day 2 of the Zombie Siege Rule Update. Zombie populations increased. Spawn rate of D-grade and higher mutants raised. Reminder, survivors gain EXP by eliminating zombies. The leaderboard will finalize rankings on Day 10. Top-ranked survivors receive exclusive bonus rewards. Lin Yi stared at the notification, his mind racing rapidly. Day 2 of the siege and D and C grade zombies were already appearing. What would await them on Day 3, Mercedes? Day 4, Mercedes? Would a grade mutant spawn by the 10th day, Mercedes? Song Ming, take your men to reinforce the iron main gate. Secure your auxiliary outbuildings' defenses as well. Xiao Wu and Ahu, clear all debris surrounding the perimeter wall. Don't leave anything the zombies could climb to scale the barriers. Muxue, go inspect the electric fence power supply and make sure it functions perfectly. What about you, Lin Yi Mercedes? Su Muxue asked. Lin Yi pulled the twin gale blades out of his spatial storage and strapped them to his waist. Then stowed the twin shadow blades back inside for backup. I'm heading east to check what's really leading that horde of zombies. Alone, Mercedes? Su Muxue frowned. One person is enough. Lin Yi patted her shoulder. Stay here and guard the villa. Wait for me to come back. He vaulted over the perimeter wall, landed softly outside, and set off toward the east. Su Muxue stood atop the wall, watching his figure fade little by little into the twilight. Her hand tightened unconsciously around the hilt of the twin shadow blades. Xiao Bao fluttered out of her pocket, landed on her shoulder, and let out a soft chirp. Chirp, don't worry. Su Muxue glanced down at the baby dragon and forced a faint smile. I'm not worried. He promised me he'd return. Night fell. The zombie horde drew ever closer along the eastern streets. A low, rumbling roar echoed in the distance, not the cry of an ordinary undead. It was deeper, heavier, carrying a primal, suffocating pressure. Linny stood in the middle of the road, moonlight spilling over his frame and stretching his shadow long across the pavement. He drew all 4 B-grade short swords from storage, suspending them to float around his body with their sharp tips pointed outward, blooming like a metallic flower. The vanguard of the zombie horde arrived. Dozens of E-grade zombies charged forward, clawing and snapping as they lunged. Linny lifted a hand. The 4 swords shot forth at once. The blades streaked out like 4 black bolts of lightning, piercing straight into the crowd of undead. The front row of zombies collapsed in unison. Each sword bored clean through their skulls before zipping back to Lin Yi's side. Telekinetic force shook the black ichor off the metal, leaving the blades spotless. One blade, one cracked skull. Every kill flooded his system with experience. System prompt: level up, name, Lin Yi level 6. Dozens of zombie corpses already littered the road around Lin Yi's feet, yet more undead surged forward without end. The E-grade creatures knew no fear, no retreat, only the urge to lunge and attack. He furrowed his brow, not because he was outmatched, but because the fight felt far too easy. Unnaturally easy. He sent the 4 swords flying again, this time holding them back instead of recalling them, guiding them to weave back and forth through the horde. The 4 streaks of light acted like invisible scythes, mowing down the zombies as if cutting wheat. Black blood splattered everywhere, severed limbs flying through the air. More than 30 undead fell in less than 10 seconds. Lin Yi recalled the swords and stared into the distance. The horde still pressed onward, yet he spotted a strange detail. They did not scatter. Normal zombies moved chaotically, spreading out in every direction naturally. This group was different. They huddled tight together, as if herded and commanded by some unseen force. Someone was controlling them. No, not a human. A higher-tier mutant zombie directed the lesser ones. The source of that low, rumbling roar was the true core of this horde. Lin Yi extended his mental power forward, sweeping past the masses of undead into the deeper darkness beyond. He sensed it. 200 meters away, hiding around a street corner. Its frame was twice the size of a regular zombie, yet smaller than the zombie tyrant he'd slain before. 3 eyes bulged from its head, each rotating independently to scan a different direction. It was far more grotesque than the tyrant had been. The moment Lin Yi laid eyes on it, his sanity value dropped by 5 points. System warning: detected C+ grade mutant creature, Necromancer White, B grade Mercedes? No. The system marked it C+. Its strength lay not in raw combat power, but control. System prompt: detected C+ grade mutant creature, Necromancer White, traits, can command all low-tier zombies within a 500 radius, high intelligence, adept at evasion. Weakness: weak personal combat stats, kill rewards, EXP plus 800, talent shards times 2, control core times 1. Lin Yi narrowed his eyes. I C+ Necromancer White capable of controlling every zombie within 500 meters. No wonder this horde moved with such coordinated discipline. This was no random zombie surge, it was a marching army. The White seemed to detect Lin Yi's telepathic scan. All 3 of its eyes swiveled to lock onto his position, then it spun and fled, moving far faster than any ordinary zombie should be able to. It was trying to escape. Lin Yi took a step to give chase, then froze after only 2 paces. The zombie horde erupted into unbridled frenzy. Without the White's control, the undead lost all formation and grew even more violent. They scattered in every direction, lunging wildly. Several charged straight for the villa compound. Lin Yi gritted his teeth, abandoning his pursuit of the White, and sprinted back the way he came. He activated spatial teleport and reached the villa in the blink of an eye. When he returned, Song Ming and his underlings were holding their position atop the perimeter wall. A handful of zombies had already reached the base of the barrier, scratching frantically at the gaps in the iron gate. Xiao Wu dropped one with a shot from the hunting bow. Lin Yi leaped onto the wall and unleashed all 4 floating swords, wiping out the remaining undead in an instant. Brother Lin, you're back. Song Ming heaved a huge sigh of relief. What's going on out east, Mercedes? There's a C+ Necromancer White directing the horde. Lin Yi stowed his blades. It got away before I could catch it. A Necromancer White Mercedes? Song Ming had never heard the term before. A mutant that can control weaker zombies. Lin Yi jumped down from the wall. Tonight's surge should die down soon. Leave 2 men on night watch. The rest go rest. He stepped inside the villa and closed the door behind him. The air inside was noticeably warmer than the frigid night outside. Linny had discovered earlier that spirit water held immense energy, enough to power an electrical generator. The spirit water-powered circuit ran a heating unit. It was no central air conditioning, but in this dead, desolate city, it counted as pure luxury. Su Muxue sat on the sofa, holding Xiaobao in her lap and staring blankly into space. The baby dragon was fast asleep, a scrap of dried meat clamped in its jaws, a thin trail of saliva dripping from the corner of its mouth. She stood the second Lin Yi walked in. Did you get hurt? Not a scratch. What about all those zombies? I cleared a portion, the rest scattered. Lin Yi peeled off his jacket and tossed it onto the sofa. He walked over to the water spirit heart, filled a cup with spirit water, and drained it in one gulp. There's a C+ mutant commanding them. I tried chasing it, but it was too fast. Su Muxue held out another cup of spirit water toward him. Drink some more. Lin Yi chugged a second cup, and only then did he feel his stamina slowly replenish. He leaned back against the sofa and stared up at the ceiling, his mind still fixed on the necromancer white. A C+ white with a 500-meter control radius, sharp wits, and the ability to flee on command. What did that mean? It meant the zombies were evolving, not just individual mutants, but their entire species growing more efficient and organized. What would happen in a few days if B-grade, or even a grade necromancer white spawned? This would no longer be a mindless zombie surge. It would be a fully coordinated war, complete with commanders, tactics, and clear objectives. Lin Yi, what are you thinking about? Su Muxue sat down beside him. Xiaobao stirred, let out an indignant chirp at being woken, then shifted position and dozed off again. I'm thinking about how we win this war. A war? What war? The zombie siege isn't just a matter of endless undead numbers. Lin Yi explained. There's a commander pulling the strings. If we don't take out these controllers, the hordes will keep growing, and will eventually be worn down to nothing. Su Muxue fell silent. After a long pause, she spoke quietly. You need more allies. I do. What kind of allies? Lin Yi thought it over. The name Song Ming had mentioned floating through his mind. Zhao Lei's crew numbered over a dozen, yet only a handful were true capable fighters. Sun Hao, the great sword wielder, had decent combat power. Then there was one more person. Chen Shuer, Lin Yi said. The woman under Zhao Lei. Her talent is foresight. She can sense danger ahead of time. Su Muxue shot upright in shock. Xiaobao slipped out of her lap, landing on the sofa with an angry series of chirps. Who? Chen Shuer. Do you know her? Su Muxue stared at Lin Yi for 3 full seconds, her mouth opening and closing repeatedly, lost for words. Chen Shuer? Surname Chen, given name Shui. Maybe Shuer's just her nickname. Lin Yi wasn't certain. Song Ming said her foresight talent lets her warn everyone of incoming threats. That ability would be invaluable during the zombie siege. If we can recruit her over to our side. She's my best friend. Lin Yi's words cut short mid-sentence. Su Muxue shot to her feet, eyes blown wide with utter shock, disbelief etched all over her face. Chen Shuer's my childhood best friend. We grew up together. We were even eating a meal together right before we were transported into this world. Lin Yi was equally stunned. Could it really be such a coincidence? Are you absolutely certain it's the same person? Who else could be named Chen Shuer with a perception type ability? Su Muxue had already pulled up her system panel. She's with Zhao Lei? How did she end up with him? Why didn't she come find me? She calmed down. Lin Yi placed a hand on her shoulder. First confirm it's the same person. Su Muxue took a deep breath and opened the system's friend search function. She hadn't contacted anyone from the outside world since the transmigration, unsure who was still alive and who wasn't. But if Chen Shuer was in the same zone, the system should locate her. She typed in Chen Shuer and hit search. Search result, Chen Shuer, survivor, current rank, 19th on the leaderboard, distance, 2.3 kilometers. Su Muxue stared at the line of text, her eyes growing watery. It's her, it's really her. Lin Yi watched her, silent for 2 seconds. You want to go see her? Of course I do. Su Muxue lifted her head. She's my best friend. I've been worried sick about her ever since we got transported here. But she's with Zhao Lei right now, Lin Yi warned her. Zhao Lei may have backed down on the surface, but his forces are still intact. It's dangerous for you to go there. Su Muxue bit her lip and slowly sank back onto the sofa. Xiaobao clambered onto her lap, tilted its head up to look at her, and let out a small chirp, as if asking what was wrong. Su Mushue stroked the young dragon's head without a word. Lin Yi walked over to the window and pushed it open. Night wind swept in, carrying the metallic stench of zombies and faint roars echoing from afar. The moon was mostly shrouded by clouds, and only dim light hummed from the power grid lining the yard. "I'll go get her," Lin Yi said. Su Mushue's head shot up. "You? I'll negotiate for her release. He won't dare refuse me. Rest assured I won't resort to force. I'll trade him the intel on what I encountered today, plus a portion of spirit water. It'll be his choice whether to pick a fight with me." Su Mushue stood and stepped in front of him. "I'm coming too." "No, why not? Zhao Lei has dozens of men there. If things turn hostile, you'll be in mortal danger," Lin Yi explained. "I possess teleportation. I can escape at any moment if needed." Su Mushue opened her mouth to argue, yet found no counterargument. She knew he was right. Her presence would only weigh him down instead of helping. "Then, don't hurt her," Su Mushue whispered softly. "No matter what her relationship with Zhao Lei is, don't harm her." Lin Yi nodded. "I'll head to Zhao Lei's compound first thing tomorrow morning. Wait for me at the villa." He paused. "If she's willing to come back with me, I'll bring her here to see you. If not, she will come," Su Mushue stated with unshakable conviction. "I know her well." Lin Yi said nothing more, lay back down on the sofa, and closed his eyes. His mind raced as he mapped out tomorrow's operation. Zhao Lei commanded 15 or 16 subordinates. Sun Hao was a formidable fighter. And Chen Shuer's foresight ability was an unpredictable wildcard. If she foresaw Lin Yi coming to confront them, Zhao Lei might prepare an ambush in advance. On second thought, there was no guarantee she would tell Zhao Lei anything she saw in her visions. For one thing, she likely had no idea the top-ranked survivor on the leaderboard, Lin Yi, was traveling with her closest friend. A faint smirk tugged at Lin Yi's lips. This would be interesting. Day 9. Dawn had barely broken when Lin Yi rose. He retrieved the unused shadow twin blades from his spatial storage and fastened them prominently at his waist, stowing the gale-cleaving blades inside as backup. Su Mushue got up as well, standing beside him to straighten the collar of his jacket. "You look like you're off to a blind date," she commented. "This is a negotiation. Presentable dress earns respect. It's basic etiquette," Lin Yi replied. "Etiquette for Zhao Lei? Not for him, but for his underlings. I'm here to claim a person, not start a brawl. I want to avoid fighting if at all possible." Su Mushue pulled a handkerchief from her pocket and pressed it into his palm. "Take this. Give it to Shuer. When she sees it, she'll know you're there on my behalf." Lin Yi examined the cloth. It was white, embroidered with a tiny flower at one corner, worn thin with age. "You two must be incredibly close." "We grew up together," Su Mushue smiled, though sorrow lingered in her expression. "Before the transmigration, we'd planned hot pot that weekend. Then everything shifted. I can't bear to think how she survived all alone out there." Lin Yi stored the handkerchief in his spatial pouch and patted her shoulder. "You'll be reunited with her this afternoon." He turned and stepped out of the villa, scaled the perimeter wall, and headed east. Song Ming spotted him in the yard and hurried a few steps after him. "Brother Lin, should I gather some men to come with you?" "No, stay and guard the villa." "Where are you going then?" "To bring someone back." Song Ming stared blankly as Lin Yi's figure vanished into the morning mist. Times Square. Zhao Lei was eating breakfast, a single can of expired mixed congee, which he scraped meticulously with his spoon, not wasting a drop clinging to the lid. Sun Hao sat across from him, gnawing hardtack while his massive greatsword rested beside his chair. Chen Shuer huddled in the corner, half a bottle of untouched water set before her. Her hair was matted, her clothes caked in dust, and heavy dark purple bags hung beneath her eyes. "Shuer, why aren't you eating?" Zhao Lei glanced up at her. "I have no appetite," Chen Shuer replied flatly. "You need to eat regardless. We're scavenging for supplies today. How will you keep going on an empty stomach?" Chen Shuer did not respond. She lifted her water bottle, took a tiny sip, and set it back down. Zhao Lei frowned but held his tongue. His attitude toward Chen Shuer was always conflicted. He burned with frustration yet dared not lash out. It was not that she was overwhelmingly powerful, but her talent to foresee danger had kept him alive this long. He could ill afford to alienate her. Rapid footsteps echoed from the entrance. A guard sprinted inside, face ashen. "Boss, Lin Yi's here." Zhao Lei's spoon slipped from his grasp, clattering sharply against the congee bowl. "What's he doing here?" I don't know, he's alone. Zhao Lei shot to his feet, instinctively reaching for the short sword at his waist, only to find empty air. Linny had seized the blade yesterday, and he had yet to find a replacement. Let him in, Zhao Lei said, his voice trembling as he fought to steady himself. A dozen pairs of eyes locked onto Lin Yi the moment he stepped into the square. He walked at an unhurried, steady pace, sweeping his gaze over every person present before settling on Zhao Lei's face. Good morning, Brother Zhao. Morning. Zhao Lei forced a stiff smile. What brings you here today, Brother Lin? Weren't you just by yesterday? I came for equipment yesterday. Today, I've come to discuss a person. Lin Yi's gaze drifted to Chen Shuer in the corner. Chen Shuer met his stare with a calm expression, yet her hands resting on her knees tightened imperceptibly. Zhao Lei followed Lin Yi's line of sight, his countenance dropping. You've come for Chen Shuer? I have. I can't let her go. Zhao Lei blurted out. She's part of my team. Lin Yi simply watched him silent. Zhao Lei grew unnerved under his stare, but gritted his teeth and stood his ground. Lin Yi, I'll hand over any gear you want, yield any territory you demand, but not Chen Shuer. She's the core of our group. Without her foresight, we could get swarmed by zombies on every supply run. Lin Yi nodded. I recognize her value. That is why I am negotiating with you, not taking her by force. What are your terms? A new Class C zombie appeared yesterday. I failed to slay it, yet I learned a great deal about its abilities. So what? With Shuer here, we'll know everything we need to as well. Lin Yi then drew 100 milliliters of spirit water from the heart of water spirit. Powerful energy rippled off the Class C spirit water, an exceptionally rare resource in the current era. Will this suffice? Lin Yi's tone edged with impatience. The rich aura emanating from the liquid stirred greed in Zhao Lei's heart. This spirit fluid possesses potent healing properties. It cannot reattach severed limbs, but it can mend severe injuries and cure most ailments. It also rapidly restores stamina in a short span, Lin Yi added. Zhao Lei still hesitated to make the trade. But Lin Yi's tone made it clear this was his final offer. To refuse would be a blatant insult. Zhao Lei glanced between the spirit fluid and Chen Shuer. I accept the trade. Zhao Lei knew full well Lin Yi owed him nothing in exchange. He could have simply taken the girl without offering a single drop of spirit water, and no one present could have stopped him. The memory of 4 Class B short swords hovering suspended in midair yesterday still haunted him. Zhao Lei called Chen Shuer forward. Every pair of eyes turned toward her. Chen Shuer tidied her messy hair briefly and walked toward Lin Yi. Her expression remained impassive, yet her steps were far quicker than usual. It was plain she had suffered here. If not for her invaluable foresight talent, Zhao Lei would have long since forced himself on her. She hurried to stand before Lin Yi and stared up at him, momentarily stunned. He was leagues more handsome than Zhao Lei. Still, she silently prayed this man would treat her kindly. Lin Yi retrieved the handkerchief from his spatial storage and held it out to her. Chen Shuer took the cloth, and her hands shook the instant she spotted the embroidered flower at its corner. This is Mushue's? She's waiting for you back at the villa, Lin Yi told her. Chen Shuer clutched the handkerchief tightly, her eyes glistening with tears. She turned to face Zhao Lei. Zhao Lei, thank you for sheltering me these past 2 weeks. But I'm leaving to find my friend. Though Zhao Lei had harbored lecherous intentions toward her and even attempted to assault her once. He had saved her life when she was on the brink of death. Without him, she would not have survived this long. Zhao Lei parted his lips, overcome with regret, yet said nothing. He looked from Lin Yi to Chen Shuer, then sank dejectedly back into his chair and waved a dismissive hand. Go on then. Lin Yi set the slip of paper covered in zombie intelligence alongside the spirit water on the table before turning to leave with Chen Shuer. Once they walked past the bounds of Times Square, Chen Shuer spoke up suddenly. Is Mushue all right? She's doing well, Lin Yi replied. Far better than most survivors. Has she been hurt? Gone hungry? Been mistreated by anyone? Chen Shuer fired questions in rapid succession. Lin Yi shot her a glance. She ranks 10th on the leaderboard. She owns Class B armor and weapons, lives in a level 7 villa, and single-handedly took down 17 zombies yesterday afternoon. Chen Shuer froze, then broke into tears of joy. I knew it. I knew she'd fare better than me. They walked for over 20 minutes before the villa's outer wall came into view. Chen Shuer stood before the iron gate and drew a deep, steadying breath. Lin Yi pushed the gate open and called inside, Su Mushue, come greet our guest. Su Mushue burst out of the villa. The second she laid eyes on Qin Shuer, she froze completely. The two girls then sprinted toward each other, crashing into an embrace and weeping bitterly. Xiaobao fluttered out of Su Mushua's pocket, hovering midair. It tilted its head, staring blankly at the crying pair. Chirp! Su Mushue and Chen Shuer clung to each other for a full 2 minutes. Xiaobao hovered there, tilting its head for ages, before finally flying over to land atop Su Mushue's head. It craned its neck to peer at Chen Shuer and chirped once more. Chirp? Who's this? Su Mushue wiped her tears, lifted the young dragon off her head, and held it out to Chen Shuer in her palms. This is Xiaobao, my pet. Chen Shuer stared at the scrawny gray creature, eyes still red from crying, a faint smile tugging at her lips. You keep a lizard? He's a dragon. An iron-winged young dragon, Class C and capable of growth. Ah, a dragon then. Chen Shuer reached out to tap its head. The hatchling snapped its jaws to bite. And Su Mushue pulled it back just in time. Lin Yi watched them for a while before speaking. Let's go inside to talk. Su Mushue snapped back to reality and grabbed Chen Shuer's hand, leading her into the villa. Chen Shuer froze the moment she stepped through the door. The villa hall's floors were spotlessly clean, dust brushed off the sofas, and a salvaged blanket draped over the cushions. The heart of water spirit rested at the center, its pale blue glow casting a soft, warm light across the entire room. The air held gentle warmth, not the bone-chilling cold ubiquitous outdoors, but the cozy heat of a safe indoor space. You have heating? Chen Shuer's voice trembled faintly with disbelief. A heating system powered by spirit water, built by Lin Yi, Su Mushue said, pulling her toward the stairs. Go take a hot bath first, the water's warm. I'll find you clean clothes to change into. Chen Shuer paused at the foot of the staircase and glanced back at Lin Yi, as if waiting for his permission. Lin Yi leaned against the doorframe and nodded at her. Take your time, no rush. Chen Shuer ascended the stairs with noticeably lighter, quicker steps. Su Mushue rummaged through the storage room for a set of her own clothes, folded them neatly on the second-floor bedroom bed. Then hurried back downstairs with 2 slabs of beast meat to start cooking. You're unusually diligent today, Lin Yi watched her bustling about from the sofa. My best friend's here, of course I'm making a proper meal. Was that expired canned food you mentioned earlier meant for her too? Su Mushue shot him a sharp glare. Must you bring up unpleasant things, Mercedes? Lin Yi chuckled and fell silent. The sound of running water echoed from the second-floor bathroom for a long stretch of time. Chen Shuer stood beneath the showerhead as hot water cascaded over her head, streaming down her shoulders and back to wash away layers of grime and exhaustion. She could barely recall the last time she'd bathed in hot water, before the transmigration, perhaps. After being transported here, every drop of water was rationed. Hot showers were an unthinkable luxury. While staying with Zhao Lei, she could only wipe herself down with cold damp rags, shivering violently afterward. As a young woman, no matter how harsh circumstances grew, she could not bear to let herself reek. Now she stood enveloped in steam, warm tile beneath her feet, mild scented body wash lathering her skin. These trivial comforts had been ordinary in their old world, yet here they felt like an impossible dream. Chen Shuer closed her eyes and let the hot water wash over her for a while longer. 20 minutes later, she turned off the tap, dried herself off, and pulled on the clothes Su Mushue had laid out, a light gray hoodie and black sweatpants. The outfit was slightly oversized, but soft and comfortable. She stepped before the mirror to examine her reflection. Her skin had regained its pale tone, all grime washed away, her damp hair falling in soft waves over her shoulders. Her features were sharper than Su Mushue's, high cheekbones, a straight bridge, thin lips, a pointed chin, carrying an aura of icy, striking beauty. Back at school, Su Mushue had been the school's sweetheart, universally adored for her sweet looks. While she ranked second, known for her cold, aloof demeanor. But much of that icy reserve had been worn away by this brutal new world. Chen Shuer drew a deep breath, pushed open the bathroom door, and descended the stairs. Su Mushue was stirring food in the kitchen. She looked up at the sound of footsteps and nearly dropped her spatula. Shuer Mercedes. You look absolutely stunning. Chen Shuer's ears flushed pink, though her expression remained calm. Stop teasing me. Lin Yi glanced over at her from the sofa as well. Chen Shuer caught his gaze and blushed slightly. Truly, she was breathtaking, not the fragile, sweet beauty of Su Mushue that stirred protective instincts, but a cold glamour that kept others at arm's length. In this cruel world, such striking looks were often a curse, drawing unwanted attention and danger. Sit, Lin gestured to the chair across from him. Chen Shuer sat straight-backed, hands folded neatly on her knees, as if undergoing an interview. Lin pulled a bottle of spirit water from his spatial storage, poured a cup, and handed it to her. Drink some water first. Chen Shuer took the cup and sipped lightly. Her eyes suddenly lit up. This water, it's unlike anything I've tasted. It's Class C spirit water. Regular consumption gradually improves physical constitution, Lin explained. The batch you're drinking now comes from an A-tier inheritance source. Chen Shuer held the cup, silent for several seconds, before letting out a soft sigh. Life here is unbelievably good. What about your life there, Mercedes? Su Muxue carried 2 plates of food over to the table and set them down. How is it staying with Zhao Lei, Mercedes? Chen Shuer set the cup down, hesitated briefly, then spoke honestly. Terrible, yet better than wandering alone. She recounted her ordeal briefly, chased by hordes of zombies on the first day of transmigration, hiding for hours inside an abandoned pharmacy. Then being found and taken in by Zhao Lei. He had treated her passably well, providing food and drink and sparing her grueling labor, on the condition she use her foresight talent to warn him of dangers every single day. He treated you like a tool, Mercedes? Su Mushua's tone darkened with anger. Not entirely. He genuinely relies on my ability, yet never withheld supplies from me. He even sent guards to watch over me on supply runs. It's just what, Mercedes? Chen Shuer glanced between Su Muxue and Lin, her voice dropping to a murmur. The way he looks at me makes my skin crawl. Every time I finish a foresight vision, he stares at me endlessly, and I can't shake the discomfort it brings. I can foresee threats, yet I cannot read what lingers in his mind. Su Muxue set down her bowl, moved to sit beside Chen Shuer, and squeezed her hand. You're safe here now. You'll never have to go back. Chen Shuer's eyes welled with tears again, but she held them back and simply nodded. Once they finished their conversation, Lin steered the discussion to business. Chen Shuer, can you elaborate on your talent, Mercedes? Su Muxue told me it falls under the perception category, but what range does it cover, and exactly what can you sense, Mercedes? Chen Shuer turned to face Lin, her expression settling back into cool composure. My talent is premonition. I can foresee the most dangerous incident that will happen within a 1-kilometer radius in the next 5 hours. What form do the premonitions take, Mercedes? Visions. I see a clip lasting roughly 3 to 5 seconds, showing the worst danger about to unfold. It could be a zombie assault, a building collapse, or an attack by other people. Lin nodded, rapidly assessing the value of this ability in his mind. A 1-kilometer range, a 5-hour window, and the power to pinpoint the gravest looming threat. It functioned as both a passive detection radar and an active early warning system. In this zombie-overrun world, the strategic worth of this talent even surpassed a Class B weapon. What's the cooldown period, Mercedes? 24 hours, Chen Shuer replied. Once used, I cannot activate it again for a full day. Lin frowned. A single use per day was quite limited, yet one well-timed premonition could save all their lives. Have you used it today, Mercedes? Not yet. I activated it yesterday. I foresaw Zhao Lei's group stumbling upon a nest of Class D zombies while scavenging supplies to the south, so I warned them and we took a detour. Chen Shuer explained. The cooldown expires at 3 this afternoon. Lin checked the time. It was 11 in the morning. 4 hours remained. At 3 o'clock, use your talent once. Find out what will pose the greatest threat to us in the next 5 hours. Chen Shuer agreed without hesitation. Understood. Su Muxue watched Lin assigning tasks to Chen Shuer, a faint twinge of unease stirring in her chest. Still, she knew in this cruel world, everyone needed to pull their weight. Mere friendship meant nothing without utility. Let's eat first. Su Muxue pushed the dishes toward Chen Shuer. Try my cooking, it's been ages since I've made a proper meal. Chen Shuer picked up her chopsticks and took a bite of meat. She froze mid-chew. She chewed slowly, as if verifying whether the food in her mouth was real. What's wrong, Mercedes? Does it taste bad, Mercedes? Su Muxue grew anxious. Chen Shuer shook her head, grabbed another piece, then another, eating at a steady, unhurried pace without pause. Watching her eat, Su Muxue's eyes stung, and she turned her head away. Lin also picked up his chopsticks and tasted the meat. The flavor was mediocre, the beast flesh a little tough, seasoned only with salt. But in this world, this feast was already the height of luxury. Midway through their meal, a system announcement popped up. System announcement, regional difficulty adjustment notice. Detected that some survivors in this region possess power far exceeding the zone's baseline threshold. System is raising regional difficulty. Difficulty upgrade complete. Extreme cold weather is imminent. Weather alert. Within 24, the regional temperature will plummet to 30 degrees Celsius, lasting until the survival challenge for this map concludes. Special rule. Zombies are unaffected by the extreme cold. Their mobility remains unchanged. Compensation mechanism. Zombie kill experience boosted by 50 during the cold snap. Survivor trading system activated. Survivors may exchange supplies via the public channel. Linny set down his chopsticks and frowned at the notification. 30 degrees Celsius. The villa's spirit water heating system could only maintain basic warmth, holding the interior around 20 degrees Celsius. With temperatures plummeting to 30 degrees Celsius outside, far more spirit water would be required to crank up the heating output. On top of that, the trading system had gone live. Supplies could now circulate freely, but so could information. He had no control over what Zhao Lei's crew might broadcast on the public channel. If anyone caught wind of the villa's massive stockpile of resources, unnecessary trouble would follow. Su Muxiue voiced her worry. Will our heating hold up at -30 Mercedes? The Heart of Water Spirit generates 500 milliliters of spirit water daily, but we'll need to ramp up heating power. Lin Yi opened his spatial storage to check his reserves. I've stockpiled roughly 20, which translates to over 20 million milliliters of spirit water. Sustaining a comfortable indoor temperature will consume around 200 milliliters per day. Before he'd headed out to negotiate for Qin Shuer, Lin Yi had filled his storage with spirit water from the lake as a contingency. At their current consumption rate, their reserves would last indefinitely. The trading system's open now, we should stock up on more goods through exchanges. Lin Yi nodded toward the public channel. Trade spirit water for food and cold weather gear. The public channel was already blowing up with panicked messages. User Zhao Lei shit, -30 degrees? I don't own a single thick coat. User Anonymous 174, anyone have winter supplies? I'll trade a Class C weapon for them. User Sun Hao, boss, do we still have any down jackets left back at the mall? User Ao Lei, not a single one. Zombies tore all of them to shreds. Lin Yi skimmed the chat logs, a faint smirk tugging at his lips. He separated 500 milliliters of spirit water from the Heart of Water Spirit and poured it into 3 bottles, then posted a message to the public channel. User Lin Yi 500 milliliters spirit water in exchange for 3 down jackets or equivalent cold weather gear. DM me if interested. The system automatically displayed the properties of spirit water, so every survivor already knew the immense benefits of Class C spirit liquid. Less than 3 seconds after his message posted, his private messages flooded in. Zhao Lei DM, Brother Lin. I've got 2 down jackets, can I trade them for 300 milliliters? Anonymous 189 DM, Sir, I have a military-grade cold-proof parka. Will you swap it for all 500 milliliters? Songming DM, Brother Lin, I have several heavy coats here, you can have them free of charge. Lin Yi replied to Songming first. Bring them over. Then he messaged Zhao Lei. 2 jackets for 200 milliliters. Take it or leave it. Zhao Lei replied instantly. I'll take it. How do we complete the trade, Mercedes? System trade. List your items on the virtual shelf, and the spirit water will transfer automatically once I confirm. The trading system was incredibly convenient. Both parties placed goods on the virtual counter, and upon confirmation, supplies teleported directly to each other's inventories, no in-person meeting required. Zhao Lei's 2 men's down jackets arrived moments later, oversized, but wearable. Lin Yi transferred the 200 milliliters spirit water, and Zhao Lei sent a kneeling thank you emoji in response. Anonymous 189's military parka was sized for women and boasted superior insulation. The seller demanded the full 500 milliliters, but Lin Yi negotiated the price down to 400 milliliters, and they struck a deal. By the time Su Muxiue came downstairs, Lin Yi had sorted all the newly acquired supplies. He handed the women's parka to her. This is for you, try it on. Su Muxiue took it and ran her hands over the thick, fleece-lined fabric, trimmed with faux fur around the hood. Where did you get this, Mercedes? Traded it on the channel for 400 milliliters of spirit water. Su Muxiue winced, pained by the cost. For 100 milliliters? That would have lasted us days. She knew Lin Yi held large spirit water reserves, yet spending so much all at once still stung. We have 20 stored, plus a fresh 500 milliliters produced every single day. This expenditure is negligible. Lin Yi folded the two men's jackets neatly. I'll wear one and give the other to Song Ming. He can split his spare heavy coats among his subordinates. Lin Yi spoke casually, but Su Muxue still felt a twinge of dismay. 20 cubic meters? That's not as endless as you make it sound, Lin Yi. Chen Shuer patted her arm and asked, do you realize how many milliliters fit in 20 cubic meters Mercedes? Su Muxue did the quick math in her head. 1 cubic meter equaled 1,000 liters. That amounted to over 20 million milliliters. She flushed with embarrassment. Their reserves truly were far more than a trivial drop in the bucket. She ducked her head and slipped on the parka at once. The coat fit her perfectly, its pale pink fabric making her skin look luminous. Does it look all right, Mercedes? Very nice. Lin Yi glanced at her briefly before shifting his gaze away. He turned to Chen Shuer. Shuer, I'll get you a well-insulated coat tomorrow. Chen Shuer nodded gratefully. There was a quiet maturity about this man that felt far beyond his age, and he was strikingly handsome too. She found herself stealing glances at him when she thought no one was watching. 15 in the afternoon. Chen Shuer activated her premonition talent. A faint white light glowed between her brows for roughly 5 seconds before fading. She opened her eyes, her face drained of color. Using her ability drained her stamina heavily. The biggest threat to the villa in the next 5 hours won't be zombies. What will it be, Mercedes? Chen Shuer gazed out the window, her voice steady and calm. Other people. A gang of 7 or 8 men will reach the villa perimeter in 2 hours. They aren't here to seek shelter, they've come to rob us. Their leader wields a Class B weapon, and the rest carry mismatched gear. They'll scout the wall for half an hour, then attempt to cut the power grid. Lin Yi leaned back against the sofa, tapping his fingers rhythmically on the armrest. Did you catch any clear details that could identify them, Mercedes? I couldn't make out their faces, but I saw one distinct mark. The leader is bald, with a red birthmark stretching down the right side of his neck. Song Ming walked in from outside, just in time to hear this, and his face paled instantly. A red birthmark, Mercedes? Sun De Biao. Lin Yi turned to him. You know him, Mercedes? Song Ming swallowed hard. Sun De Biao ranks 8th on the survivor leaderboard. I've heard rumors he commands a crew of ruthless scavengers who rob other survivors' supplies on site. He shaves his head specifically to make that red neck birthmark stand out. It's his calling card. 8th place on the leaderboard. A cold smirk tugged at Lin Yi's mouth. Perfect timing. Su Muxue grew nervous. Are you going to face them alone again, Mercedes? Not this time. Lin Yi stood to his feet. You two will fight alongside me. He turned to Song Ming. How many of your men are capable fighters, Mercedes? Xiao Wu and Ah Hu hold their own. The other two. Bring Xiao Wu and Ah Hu then. Lin Yi looked to Chen Shuer. Can your premonition pinpoint which direction they'll approach from, Mercedes? Chen Shuer closed her eyes to revisit her vision. Her talent only granted one full active premonition per day, but she could replay the vision she'd already seen as many times as needed. Southeast. They're coming from Zhao Lei's direction. Lin Yi nodded, pulling the Gale cleaving blades and Shadow twin blades out of his spatial storage and laying them all on the table. Song Ming, take Xiao Wu and Ah Hu and post up behind the southeast wall. Wait for my signal. Su Muxue, head to the 2nd floor and provide long-range support with your hunting bow from the high ground. Your movement speed is quick. If any intruders break through the wall, retreat to a safe spot immediately. Chen Shuer, stay on the ground floor and relay their every next move to me the second you see it. After assigning everyone their roles, Lin Yi grabbed the Gale cleaving blades and glanced at Su Muxue. Don't be nervous. Stick to the combat drills we practiced. You took down 17 zombies single-handedly. Fighting human raiders is no different. Su Muxue tightened her grip on the Shadow twin blades and nodded, sweat beading in her palms. This was her first time facing hostile humans, and her nerves were frayed. Chen Shuer glanced at her and spoke up suddenly. Muxue, you have nothing to fear. In my vision, not a single one of them makes it past the villa gates. Su Muxue blinked in surprise. Really? Truly. But I couldn't see who stopped them. Chen Shuer's gaze drifted to Lin Yi. All I saw was one man standing before the iron gate, and the entire gang fled at the sight of him. Lin Yi smiled. That would have been me. 2 hours later, southeast perimeter. Sun De Biao led 7 men toward the villa's outer wall. A burly man in his 40s with a gleaming bald head, a dark red birthmark snaked down the right side of his neck from his ear to his collar. In his hand, he gripped a long sword glowing faintly crimson, a Class B weapon. "Boss, the power grids still live," one underling crouched by the fence, carefully avoiding the electrified wire mesh. "If the grid's powered, there's people inside," Sun Debiao grinned, revealing yellowed teeth. "Where there's people, there's supplies. That brat Zhao Lei told me there's a villa here with endless stockpiles. Looks like he didn't lie. Can we trust anything Zhao Lei says? Doesn't matter either way. We'll find out once we loot the place." Sun Debiao hefted his red sword. "First, locate the power cable and cut it." A subordinate pulled a pair of heavy bolt cutters from his backpack and crept along the wall hunting for the wiring. Less than a minute later, he froze. He hadn't found the power line. A man stood directly in his path. Linny leaned against the wall at the corner, hands tucked in his pockets, as if waiting for an old friend. The underling stumbled backward 3 steps, nearly losing his balance. Who are you? I should be asking you that." Lin Yi's eyes fell on the bolt cutters in his grip. "Planning to cut my power lines?" Sun Debiao heard the commotion and marched over with his crew, boxing Lin Yi into the wall corner. All 7 men raised blades, clubs, and makeshift spears, aiming every weapon straight at him. Sun Debiao sized Lin Yi up and down with a mocking laugh. "You're the owner of this villa? Pretty boy, far too young for this wasteland." Lin Yi ignored the taunt. He glanced at the crimson sword in Sun Debiao's hand, then the birthmark on his neck. "Sun Debiao, 8th place on the leaderboard." "Oh, you've heard of me?" Sun Debiao slung the red sword over one shoulder. "Then you know my terms. Hand over half your supplies, and I'll leave peacefully. Refuse, and I'll take everything myself." Lin Yi stared at him silently for 2 full seconds. "You know what I hate most about guys like you?" "Like what?" "You're fully prepared to rob people outright, yet you pretend to be reasonable by demanding half your goods first." Lin Yi summoned the gale-cleaving blades from his storage. "Hand over half your gear, and I'll let you walk. Refuse, and I'll take everything myself." Sun Debiao stared blankly, then roared with laughter. His underlings joined in the jeering. "Kid, do you have any idea who I am? Ranked 8th. You're just a green kid who hasn't even hit puberty." He never finished the sentence. Lin Yi lifted a hand, and telekinetic force seized the crimson sword in Sun Debiao's grasp. The blade shook violently. Sun Debiao strained with both hands yet couldn't hold on. An invisible force ripped the sword free, suspending it midair with its tip pointed straight at his face. Sun Debiao's laughter died instantly, his expression rigid with terror. Behind Lin Yi, for additional Class B short swords flew out of his spatial storage at once, hovering overhead, all blades pointed at Sun Debiao's gang. 5 Class B weapons glinted with cold, deadly light beneath the sunlight. Sun Debiao's knees buckled. 2 of his 7 underlings had already turned and fled. "I told you, hand over half your belongings, and I'd spare you," Lin Yi's tone flat and unemotional. "Now you've lost even that chance. Leave your Class B sword here, and take your men and get out of my sight." Sun Debiao's face turned deep purple with rage. His lips trembled for a long moment before he forced out a shaky question. Who exactly are you?" Lin Yi pulled up his system panel and displayed the survivor leaderboard for all to see. Rank 1, Lin Yi. Every drop of color drained from Sun Debiao's face. He opened his mouth to beg or bargain, yet no words came out. He spun on his heel and fled at a near sprint, his 7 subordinates scrambling after him in a chaotic rout. One even lost a shoe and dared not stop to retrieve it. The crimson sword hung suspended in the air, and Lin Yi pulled it back into his storage. Obtained Class B weapon, Blood Edge Longsword ×1. Su Muxue leaned out of the 2nd floor window. "They ran off. They're gone." Lin Yi recalled his blades and walked back toward the villa. Chen Shuer stood at the doorway, watching him approach with a complicated mix of awe and shock. "You single-handedly chased off Sun Debiao, the 8th-ranked survivor?" "I didn't fight them, just scared them off," clarifying. Lin Yi stepped inside. 30 minutes faster than your premonition predicted." Chen Shuer fell silent for a beat, then suddenly laughed. "Muxue, where on earth did you find this absolute monster?" Su Muxue hurried down the stairs, her cheeks flushing pink at the comment, yet she refused to back down. "He's not a monster, he's just a scavenger who got lucky." "A scavenger with 5 Class B weapons?" "He just got extremely lucky, that's all." Lin Yi ignored the 2 women's playful back and forth and sank back onto the sofa, opening the public trading channel. A fresh message from Sun Debiao sat at the top of the feed. User Sun Debiao, stay far away from the villa in the West residential zone owned by Lin Yi. Anyone who wants to pick a fight with him can go ahead. I'm not touching that man with a 10-foot pole. A flood of question marks flooded the replies beneath his post. User Zhao Lei Boss Biao, what do you mean by that? User Sun De Biao, I mean I just lost a Class B weapon to him. Anyone who thinks they're tougher than a Class B sword is welcome to test their luck. The entire public channel went dead silent for 10 full seconds. Then Zhao Lei sent a single word, damn. Linny smirked at the screen and closed the channel. Su Muxue wandered over to his side. What did Sun Debiu post on the channel? He said, I'm someone no one dares mess with. Su Muxue rolled her eyes. That's so cringy and over the top. Linny turned and walked back into the villa. Brother Lin, what about Sun Debiu? He's gone. Linny took off his jacket and tossed it onto the sofa. He won't be coming back anytime soon. Song Ming let out a long breath of relief, only to hold it again at Lin Yi's next words. But once the extreme cold hits, dangers will keep piling up. Eventually, it won't just be 1 or 2 raiders, it'll be everyone out for blood. Lin Yi leaned back against the sofa and pulled the Heart of Water spirit out of his spatial storage, taking a big gulp of spirit water. The cool liquid slid down his throat, restoring much of his stamina. He glanced at his system panel, level 6, Constitution 250, Strength 230, Speed 210. These were his stats after breaking through to level 6, newly updated by the system. The human physical limit stood at 100. His attributes were more than double that threshold. His bodily functions had grown powerful to a degree ordinary humans could never comprehend. His speed, strength, reflexes, and stamina outmatched regular survivors in every single aspect. Song Ming, Lin Yi called out. I'm here, Brother Lin. Tomorrow, take your men out to scavenge supplies. Grab as much food, fresh water, and cold weather gear as you can carry. Song Ming nodded. Understood. What about you, Brother Lin? I've got other errands to run. Lin Yi did not elaborate, and Song Ming dared not press him. He led his subordinates back to the adjacent villa. That neighboring building was a little smaller than Lin Yi's, yet still livable enough to shield them from wind and rain. Song Ming's crew occupied the first floor, while he claimed 3 private rooms on the second floor. Once Song Ming left, Su Muxue descended the stairs carrying 3 bowls of hot soup, with Chen Shuer trailing behind clutching several cans. Song Ming and his team left? Su Muxue set the soup bowls on the coffee table. Lin Yi picked up a bowl and sipped the broth. The 3 of us are heading out together tomorrow. Su Muxue blinked in surprise. Where to? The police station. Chen Shuer's hands jolted, nearly dropping the cans she held. The police station? Lin Yi retrieved his hunting bow from storage and laid it on the table. Take a look at this. The bow deals decent damage, but it's too slow against regular zombies. I need firearms. Su Muxue and Chen Shuer exchanged a worried glance. But the station must be swarming with zombies, Su Muxue pointed out. There'll be dozens of them for sure. That's exactly why I need the 2 of you with me. Lin Yi finished his soup and set the bowl aside. Chen Shuer's premonition talent will help us avoid large hordes. Your supply perception can pinpoint the armory's location. My telekinesis will clear out all hostiles. He laid out the plan casually, as if they were planning a weekend outing rather than a high-risk scavenge. Su Muxue chewed her lip, then reluctantly nodded her consent. Chen Shuer said nothing, but her gaze toward Lin Yi held a tangle of complex emotions. This man always thought 3 steps ahead of every situation. The next morning, it was 6 a.m., and dawn had barely broken when Lin Yi woke up. The temperature had plummeted far further than the day before. He pushed open the window, and frigid wind sliced across his face like shards of ice. The system readout showed the outdoor temperature had already dropped below 0. Still over a dozen hours remained until the mercury hit -30 degrees Celsius. As the 3 stepped out of the villa, Song Ming was already assembling his crew in the yard next door. He'd brought 5 men, including Xiao Wu and Ahu, each hauling a huge backpack, clearly ready for a major supply run. Brother Lin, we're heading south to a wholesale market. It should be stuffed with supplies coals, Song Ming reported. Go on then and stay alert. Be back before dark falls. Song Ming nodded and led his men away. Lin Yi stood in the yard, watching their figures vanish around the street corner, then turned to Su Muxue. Let's go. We depart too. The police station lay to the east, roughly 4 kilometers from the villa. The 3 trekked down the empty street in a formation Lin Yi had arranged. Lin Yi led the way to clear threats up front, Su Muxue brought up the rear, and Chen Shuer walked in the middle. The logic behind the formation was simple. Chen Shuer lacked sturdy combat gear and fighting experience, so the center position kept her safest. Su Muxue wore Class B protective armor, so covering the rear held little risk for her. They had traveled less than 500 meters when the temperature dropped sharply once more. White fog billowed from their breath, frost crusted the pavement, and every step crunched loudly over the icy surface. "It's freezing." Su Muxue huddled her shoulders and zipped her parka all the way up to her chin. "It wasn't this cold yesterday." "We're still hours away from -30, Lin Yi replied without turning his head. "This is only the start." Su Muxue shrugged and fell silent. Though her physical constitution had strengthened considerably, such bitter cold still weighed heavily on a girl raised in the warmer south. Zombies were sparse along their route. Only a handful stragglers appeared, all effortlessly eliminated by Lin Yi's telekinetically controlled daggers. He did not even draw a formal weapon. The blades darted through the air like invisible hornets, piercing each zombie's skull with pinpoint precision. Lin Yi's level was now exceptionally high. Name: Lin Yi, level 6, current constitution 250, human limit 100, strength 230, speed 210. Brain domain capacity 400, unique trait, sanity value 83. Warning: sanity below 10 induces unconsciousness. Reaching 0 results in brain death. Talent: universal telekinetic body, S-Rank, ability to manipulate objects, maximum controllable weight 800 kilograms. Spatial storage volume 960 cubic meters, spatial teleport 50-meter travel range, costs 1 brain domain capacity per use, current experience points 130/2000. Chen Shuer watched every move clearly from behind, her pupils shrinking slightly in shock. She knew Lin Yi was powerful, yet witnessing him slaughter zombies with nothing but his mind left her utterly stunned. He handled deadly threats as effortlessly as completing a trivial chore. Has he always been this strong? Chen Shuer whispered to Su Muxue. Su Muxue paused to think. Not from the very beginning, but he's improved far faster than anyone else. Why is that? He's brilliant, Su Muxue said earnestly. While others stress over where their next meal comes from, he's planning for weeks ahead. While everyone scrambles to hoard resources blindly, he lays long-term strategies. While others waste energy fighting petty skirmishes, he hunts to level up. Chen Shuer fell quiet for a moment, then nodded. It's plain to see. After walking roughly 2 kilometers, Lin Yi suddenly halted and held up a hand to signal the others to stop. Su Muxue lowered her voice. Zombies ahead? Not zombies. Lin Yi narrowed his eyes toward the intersection ahead. Humans. The three ducked behind an abandoned bus and peeked out. 4 people stood facing off in the middle of the crossroads, or rather, 3 men ganged up on a lone woman. The female survivor wore a long black coat, her hair tied back in a ponytail, gripping a gleaming silver longsword in her hand. Her 3 assailants wielded clubs and metal pipes, coordinating their attacks well, yet unable to break through her defense. The woman's swordsmanship was razor-sharp, every strike lightning fast and precise, forcing the 3 men steadily backward. But she was vastly outnumbered. After fighting for several minutes, her stamina waned, and her sword strokes slowed noticeably. Su Muxue stared for a few seconds, then grabbed Lin Yi's arm. Lin Yi, look at that woman. Lin Yi was already observing her, catching a critical detail. Fierce as her swordplay was, she maintained an extremely conservative stance, always leaving herself an escape route. She was not truly fighting to win, she was stalling for time. She's waiting for backup, Lin Yi surmised. Not reinforcements, Chen Shuer's voice came from behind them, carrying a strange note of recognition. That's Qin Shuang. Lin Yi spun around sharply. What? Qin Shuang, the one ranked second on the survivor leaderboard. Chen Shuer pointed toward the woman. I saw her photo back with Zhao Lei's group. I'd know her anywhere. Lin Yi refocused his gaze on the intersection. The second-ranked survivor Qin Shuang, besieged by 3 low-tier thugs? It made no sense, unless she was testing something, scouting for hidden observers and gauging how many factions occupied this zone. Interesting, a faint smirk tugged at Lin Yi's lips. He held back from intervening immediately, continuing to watch. Qin Shuang's sword strokes grew slower and slower, and grins spread across the 3 men's faces as they intensified their assault. One man brandished an iron pipe and swung it down hard. Qin Shuang dodged sideways, the pipe slamming into the pavement and sending gravel flying. The instant the metal hit the ground, Lin Yi spotted something striking. Qin Shuang's eyes lit up, not a figure of speech. They literally glowed, a flicker of golden light flashing across her pupils. In the next heartbeat, all three men collapsed simultaneously. They had not tripped over debris or slipped on the frost. It was as if the ground had been pulled out from under them. They lost balance in unison and crashed flat onto their backs. Qin Shuang sheathed her sword, stepped over to stand above the three fallen men, and looked down at them coldly. "You dare rob me with such mediocre skill, Mercedes?" The three men turned deathly pale and scrambled to their feet, fleeing in a panicked rout. Lin Yi stepped out from behind the bus and clapped his hands twice. Qin Shuang whirled around, instantly raising her sword at the sight of him. "Easy now," Lin Yi held both hands up in a placating gesture. "I'm not here to fight." "Who are you, Mercedes?" "Lin Yi." Qin Shuang lowered her sword halfway, though not fully. "The number one on the leaderboard, Mercedes?" "MHM." Qin Shuang sized him up and down, her gaze lingering briefly on the gale-cleaving blades at his waist before shifting to Su Muxue and Chen Shui standing behind him. "Were you following me, Mercedes?" "Pure coincidence," Lin Yi replied. "We just happened to pass by, catch your fight, and recognize you." Qin Shuang stared at him for 3 full seconds, then slid her sword back into its sheath at her hip. "What do you want, Mercedes?" Lin Yi thought for a moment. "I'd like to propose a partnership." "Not interested." Qin Shuang turned to leave at once. "The extreme cold hits in only a few more hours. You can't survive alone out here." Qin Shuang's footsteps faltered, yet she did not stop walking. "I have my own safe house." "Does it have an electrified perimeter fence, Mercedes?" "A heating system, Mercedes?" "Automated defense turrets, Mercedes." Qin Shuang finally froze. She turned back to face Lin Yi, her cold expression shifting into a sharp, assessing stare. "What are your terms, Mercedes?" "No terms at all," Lin Yi said. "We share all resources during the cold snap. You help me defend the villa compound, and I'll guarantee you survive these 30. Once the 30 days end, you're free to leave whenever you wish. I won't force you to stay." Qin Shuang fell into a long silence. Zombie roars echoed in the distance once more, and the temperature dipped another degree. A heavy, troubled look settled over her features. "We have a deal," Qin Shuang agreed. "But I won't stay in the main villa with everyone. Just give me a separate private room. Whatever you prefer." Qin Shuang walked forward to stand before Lin Yi and held out one hand. Lin Yi shook it. Her palm was ice cold, yet her grip was surprisingly firm. Su Muxue watched the exchange from behind, her expression complicated. Chen Shui noticed and gently nudged her arm. "What's wrong, Mercedes?" "Nothing," Su Muxue forced a hollow smile. The four continued their trek toward the police station. Qin Shuang walked beside Lin Yi, the two making idle small talk as they traveled. Lin Yi quickly realized Qin Shuang spoke little, but every word she said hit straight to the point. She asked for his level. When he answered level 6, she fell silent for 2 seconds before admitting, "I'm only level 4. Then she questioned his talent, and Lin Yi listed 3 of his abilities. This time she stayed quiet for a full 5 seconds. "If you weren't ranked first on the leaderboard, I'd think you were spinning tall tales. You're welcome to test me." Qin Shuang shot him a glance, the corner of her mouth twitching as if holding back laughter, though no smile broke through in the end. They reached the police station soon after. It was a 3-story gray concrete building, the glass entrance door shattered across the ground, sandbags and barbed wire piled at the doorway. Clear signs it had been used as a makeshift defensive outpost in the early days of the apocalypse. Lin Yi unleashed his telekinesis, sweeping the entire building with his mental perception. First floor, 12 zombies scattered throughout the lobby and hallways. Second floor, 7 zombies confined to several offices. Third floor, 2 abnormally large D-rank zombies. When his telekinetic sense reached the basement level, Lin Yi paused. A massive mass of metal registered beneath the ground, either stockpiled firearms or mountains of ammunition. "I found it," Lin Yi said. "The armory's in the basement." Su Muxue's supply perception talent activated. She closed her eyes to focus for several seconds, opening them again with bright excitement. "At least 50 firearms down there, and ammo. I can't pinpoint the exact quantity, but there's a huge stockpile." Qin Shuang drew her sword. "Then what are we waiting for, Mercedes?" Lin Yi held her back. "Take it slow. Clear the upper floors first, then head down to the basement armory. Qin Shuang, you'll fight alongside me. Su Muxue and Chen Shui, guard the main entrance. Don't let any outside zombies break in." "Understood." Sumu Shiwei tightened her grip on the shadow twin blades. Got it. Chen Shui retreated to the doorway, closing her eyes to scan the surrounding area. No large hordes within 200 meters. You can clear the building without worry. Linny pulled the gale-cleaving blades out of his spatial storage and tossed one to Qin Shuang. Qin Shuang caught the blade, hefted its weight, and raised an eyebrow. A Class B weapon, aren't you wasting it lending it out, Mercedes? It's a loan. Return it once we finish scavenging. Qin Shuang said nothing further, gripping the dual blade tightly and charging into the station side by side with Lin Yi. 12 zombies roamed the first floor lobby. Lin Yi struck first with telekinesis, for short swords flew out of storage, arcing through the air to pierce the skulls of 4 zombies simultaneously. Qin Shuang's sword moved even faster. She darted into the horde, silver light flashing, and 3 more heads rolled across the floor. The remaining 5 zombies did not even have time to react before the pair split them down the middle and eliminated the rest. They cleared all 12 undead in under 30 seconds from the moment they stepped through the doors. Second floor, Lin Yi recalled his floating daggers and headed for the staircase. The second floor proved more complex. Narrow corridors branched off into dozens of offices, with zombies isolated in separate rooms. Lin Yi swept each room with his telekinetic vision, pinpointing every zombie's position before guiding his daggers through the thin gaps beneath doorframes to slay them one by one from afar. Qin Shuang trailed behind, barely lifting a finger, simply watching Lin Yi's unrivaled display of power. Your telekinesis can kill through walls, Mercedes, she asked. Not solid walls, but gaps work, Lin Yi explained. As long as there's even a tiny crack, my telekinetic force can slip through. Qin Shuang fell silent. A talent like this was game-breaking for urban combat scenarios. The 2 D-rank zombies on the 3rd floor proved easier to defeat than anticipated. Bulky and slow, they made easy targets. Lin Yi activated Shadow Teleport, vanishing behind one monster and driving his dual blade straight into its cervical vertebrae. The creature collapsed instantly. Qin Shuang dealt with the second, stabbing her sword straight through its eye socket. The zombie crumpled without a single scream. Basement time, Lin Yi walked to the stairwell and glanced down. The stairwell plunged into deep shadow. The beam of a flashlight only illuminated the first few steps. The air reeked of mildew and rusted metal. Lin Yi took point, his telekinetic perception flaring to full power to blanket the entire basement level. The metal signature originated at the far end of the corridor, behind a heavy iron gate. No zombies lingered in the basement at all. This struck them as deeply unnatural. The entire building teemed with the undead, yet the basement armory sat completely empty of monsters. Lin Yi slowed his pace, scanning the gate repeatedly with his telekinesis until he spotted the anomaly, a seal etched into the metal door. Similar to the one they'd encountered in an underground bunker before, yet far more advanced. Aloe, Lin Yi called out quietly. Aloe drifted out from the heart of water spirit, studying the seal on the iron gate and frowning. This is a B-rank seal. It'll take some work to break. Can you remove it, Mercedes? Give me a moment, Aloe replied. She pressed her palm flat against the metal door, steady streams of spiritual energy pouring from her body into the seal's runes. The carvings on the iron gate ignited with glowing blue light, the hue spreading outward from the center like a burning spiderweb. After roughly 10 seconds, a sharp click echoed as the lock popped open. The heavy iron gate swung wide open. Aloe looked rather drained. Lin Yi immediately handed her spirit water, and her complexion lightened a little. You've worked hard. Go rest now. Qin Shuang, standing beside Lin Yi, stared blankly. What on earth was that Mercedes? A ghost Mercedes? Could creatures like this even exist in this survival apocalypse, Mercedes? She burned with questions, but figured gathering supplies was the priority for now. She could ask later back at the villa. Lin Yi pushed the iron gate open. As the beam of the flashlight streamed inside, all 4 of them gasped in unison. It was the armory. One entire wall was lined with gun racks, neatly stocked with all kinds of firearms, rifles, submachine guns, handguns, at least 60 weapons in total. The opposite wall held rows of ammunition lockers crammed full of bullets, glinting golden yellow under the torchlight. At the far end of the basement sat 2 small metal crates. Lin Yi walked over and opened the first one. Inside lay 2 silvery handguns with a futuristic design, etched with delicate runes across their frames. System notification. Spirit Energy Pistol, Class C, uses spirit energy as ammunition, no reload required. Firepower scales with the wielder's spirit energy level. Linny took out the 2 pistols and passed one each to Su Muxiue and Chen Shuer. Take these. Su Muxiue turned the gun over in her hands repeatedly. This thing doesn't need bullets at all, Mercedes. It should fire when fed spirit water, Linny explained. Hold on to them for now. We'll test them back at the villa. Chen Shuer took her pistol and curled her fingers around the grip, gently brushing her fingertips over the carved runes. Her expression remained calm, yet Linny spotted a faint tremor in her fingers, not from fear, but excitement. Linny then opened the second crate. Resting inside was an all-black sniper rifle with an extra-long barrel, its scope also etched with runic markings. System notification. Colossus Sniper Rifle, Class V, effective range of 1000. Fires spirit energy rounds. Damage increases with spirit energy level. Unique skill, armor piercing, ignores all Class V and lower defenses. Linny lifted the sniper rifle, hefting it and taking a practice aim. It was heavy, but with his constitution stat sitting at 250, the weight felt no more burdensome than holding a chopstick. He stowed the sniper rifle into his spatial storage, then turned to pack all the remaining firearms and ammunition away. More than 60 regular guns and thousands of rounds vanished into his storage space. The 960 vault only used up less than 5 of its total capacity. Linny watched his storage utilization jump from 12 to 14, a weight lifting from his chest. Staring at the now empty gun racks, Su Muxiue sighed. If this were the old world, we'd be locked up for multiple lifetimes over all this firepower. Unfortunately, this isn't the old world. We need these weapons to survive here, Linny said, shoving the last ammunition locker into storage and clapping his hands together. Let's head back and set up the defense turrets. Qin Shuang leaned against the doorway, barely speaking the entire time. But her gaze toward Linny had shifted entirely, from initial wariness to careful scrutiny and now quiet acknowledgement. You're far more capable than you look, she said. Just capable, Mercedes? I thought you'd have more to say. Linny headed for the exit. I don't waste words on empty chatter. Linny let out a soft laugh and said no more. By the time the 4 stepped out of the police station, the sky had turned completely dark. It wasn't storm clouds blocking the light, but thick, unbroken fog brought on by the temperature drop. Visibility stretched less than 50 ahead. The mercury had plummeted further. Linny checked his system panel. 18 degrees Celsius. Less than 6 hours remained until the temperature hit 30 degrees Celsius. Let's hurry back. Linny quickened his pace. We can't stay outdoors once the extreme cold fully sets in. The 4 jogged all the way home. A few scattered zombie packs crossed their path, all eliminated remotely by Linny's telekinesis, without delaying them a single minute. When they returned to the villa, Song Ming and his crew were already back. Mounds of supplies stacked like small hills filled the yard: food, fresh water, thick winter coats, quilts, and even several small fuel space heaters. Brother Lin. Song Ming rushed over, his face dust-covered, but split into a wide grin. The wholesale market was overflowing with supplies. We hauled loads back trip after trip. We nearly collapsed on the way. Good work. Linny patted him on the shoulder. He teleported the majority of the supplies into his spatial storage, leaving a portion for Song Ming's group. He also handed them an extra batch of spirit water. This is too precious, Brother Lin. It's fine, just take it. Song Ming stared for a second before hastily accepting it. He was now utterly certain throwing his lot in with Lin Yi was the right choice. Not only was the man overwhelmingly powerful, but he was also incredibly generous. After offering their thanks, Song Ming and his men returned to their smaller adjacent villa. Even with the temperature hours away from hitting 30 degrees Celsius, 7 or 8 men huddled together with ample cold weather gear and food would manage to hold out. Linny walked into the villa and pulled the 2 spirit energy pistols out of storage. Su Muxiue and Chen Shuer were already seated on the living room sofa, with Qin Shuang standing nearby, her eyes wide with awe. Ever since arriving in this city, she'd seen no buildings with power. The grid had collapsed entirely. But stepping inside this villa had left her stunned. The living room floors were spotlessly polished, plush plushies dotted the sofas, and a clean blanket spread across the floor. At the room's center sat the heart of water spirit, its pale blue glow bathing the entire space in soft, gentle light. Warm air wrapped around them, the genuine, cozy warmth of an indoor heated space, something she hadn't felt in months. Qin Shuang hesitated, frozen in place, until Lin Yi noticed her stiff posture upon entering and quickly pulled her over to sit down. There aren't many strict rules in my villa. As long as no one harms each other or damages the shelter, there's more than enough food and supplies for everyone. Don't feel restrained from now on, treat this like your own home. Come to me if you need anything at all. Lin Yi could tell Qin Shuang was still tense, she would likely need time to settle in. He then took the 2 spirit energy pistols from storage once more. System notification. Spirit energy pistol, Class C, uses spirit energy as ammunition, no reload required. Firepower scales with the wielder's spirit energy level. Spirit energy Mercedes? Lin Yi spotted empty refill slots on the pistol's interface and poured out a portion of spirit water. Spirit water contains spirit energy, it should work as fuel. Spirit Energy Pistol, Class C, currently loaded with 100 milliliters Class C spirit water, capable of firing 100 Class C energy rounds. Lin Yi handed the pistols to Su Muxue and Chen Shuer, walking them through how to refill their spirit energy reserves. Start firearms practice tomorrow. Zombie experience gains are boosted during the extreme cold. Each kill counts as 1.5 normal kills. Don't waste this opportunity. At present, only Su Muxue had reached level 6 alongside Lin Yi. Chen Shuer, who had been separated from him all this time, remained stuck at level 3. Su Muxue twirled her new pistol in her hand, accidentally pointing the barrel straight at Lin Yi. Lin Yi lifted a hand to deflect the muzzle away. Never point a gun at anyone. Sorry, Mercedes. Su Muxue hastily lowered the weapon, her cheeks flushing red. Chen Shuer carried her pistol over to the window and pushed it open. Frigid wind whipped inside, yet she paid it no mind, raising the gun to aim at a tree in the yard. Her stance was textbook perfect, her breathing slow and steady. Lin Yi glanced at her. You've practiced shooting before, Mercedes? My father was a police officer, Chen Shuer replied. He took me to shooting ranges when I was little. Lin Yi nodded, then retrieved the Spirit Energy sniper rifle from storage and set it on the coffee table. This rifle is yours to use from now on. Chen Shuer turned to stare at him, shock plain across her face. A Class B sniper rifle? You're giving this to me, Mercedes? Your premonition talent shines brightest at long range, Lin Yi said. A sniper's position suits you perfectly. Chen Shuer fell silent for several seconds before stepping forward and lifting the heavy rifle, holding it steady against her frame. Lin Yi, she said softly. Thank you. Not just for the gun. She paused. Thank you for rescuing me from Zhao Lei's group. If you hadn't come, I'd still be trapped in that run-down mall, surviving on cold water and hard biscuits, living in constant fear every single day. Lin Yi simply watched her without speaking. Chen Shuer lifted her head, glimmers of emotion shimmering in her sharp, cold eyes. I won't let you down. Lin Yi nodded. I know you won't. Su Muxue watched the exchange, her already complicated expression growing even more tangled. Xiao Bao poked its head out of her pocket, glancing between Lin Yi, Chen Shuer, then back up at Su Muxue. Chirp? Are you upset? Su Muxue glared down at the young dragon and muttered quietly, Don't talk nonsense. Aloe drifted out of the heart of water spirit, floating mid-air as she looked over Lin Yi, then Chen Shuer, before finally turning to Su Muxue and Qin Shuang. 3 women under one roof. Drama was bound to follow. This villa was only going to get livelier from here on out. Lin Yi stepped out into the yard and pulled 2 construction blueprints for automated defense turrets from his spatial storage, looted earlier from the police station. Automated turret, Class B defensive structure, automatically engages hostiles within a 100-meter radius, infinite ammunition, powered by spirit energy. He picked 2 spots at the villa's northern and southern corners, laid down the blueprints, and channeled a large volume of spirit water into them. The paper diagrams dissolved into flecks of light, replaced by 2 silvery turrets with barrels pointed skyward, their bases anchored firmly into the concrete. The turrets powered on automatically, their barrels rotating slowly to scan the surrounding perimeter. Automated turrets activated, 100-meter effective range, friendly hostile identification system online. Defense value increased. Current total defense value, 1,250 plus 500 is equal to 1,750. Song Ming heard the whirring mechanical noise and stuck his head out from the neighboring villa. He gaped at the 2 towering turrets, eyes nearly popping out of his head. Brother Lin, these things look insanely powerful. He swallowed hard, then spun around and shouted to his subordinates. You all saw that, didn't you? Stick with Brother Lin, and we'll have plenty to eat, guns to wield, and turrets guarding our home. Anyone who harbors disloyal thoughts will be the first I toss outside to feed the zombies. His men chorused their reply, understood. Linny stood in the yard, watching the turrets swivel slowly, a faint smirk tugging at his lips. He then tilted his head upward toward the sky. The darkness deepened, and the fog thickened further. -30°C had arrived. Only Lin Yi remained in the living room now. Su Muxue and Qin Shui had headed to the kitchen to prepare dinner, while Qin Shuang had gone upstairs to bathe. Lin Yi planned to list his old hunting bow on the trading channel. Just then, Su Muxue carried 4 bowls of hot soup out of the kitchen. She spotted Lin Yi about to put the bow up for trade. Huh, you're selling the bow? She leaned over to glance at his system panel. That bow's been with you all this time. Are you really okay letting it go? Would you ever treat me like this someday, Lin Yi? Of course not, I'm not that kind of person. Bows just aren't practical in a city environment, Lin Yi said as he set the trade terms. 1 Class D hunting bow plus 50 arrows, in exchange for 1 military-grade cold-proof parka or equivalent supplies. Reload speed slow, penetration is mediocre. It works fine on regular zombies, but struggles against Class D and above. Firearms are far more efficient. 1 shot per target, no wasted effort. Su Muxue pouted, but did not argue. She knew Lin Yi made every decision based on practicality, never sentiment. Chen Shui sat sipping her soup in tiny mouthfuls, her gaze drifting repeatedly toward the staircase. Qin Shuang had gone up to bathe nearly 40 minutes ago. She's taking quite a while, Chen Shui remarked. You would too, if you were her. Su Muxue sat down beside her. Think about it, when was the last time you had a proper hot shower? Chen Shui paused, falling silent. She couldn't remember a single hot bath after the transmigration. Back with Zhao Lei's group, water was a critical resource. Each person only received enough to drink every day. A hot shower was nothing more than a fantasy. At best, she could sneak a quick wipe of her face and neck with a damp towel when no one was watching. Grimy clothes, matted hair, the permanent stench of sweat and zombie blood, she'd grown accustomed to it all. Familiarity didn't mean she didn't crave something better, she'd simply had no other choice. Let her take her time. Lin Yi leaned back against the sofa and closed the trading channel. The hunting bow had been claimed less than 3 minutes after posting, swapped for a black military-grade parka with a thick insulated lining, rated to withstand temperatures as low as -40 degrees. He folded the coat and stowed it into storage, clapping his hands lightly. Hot water doesn't cost anything, after all. Hot water may be free, but spirit water isn't. Aloe floated out from the heart of water spirit and perched on the sofa armrest, swinging her legs. Everyone needs to conserve usage. Power generation efficiency drops severely once it hits -30 degrees. Yeah, we get it. Su Muxue waved Aloe off, then turned back to Lin Yi. You said you wanted to ask Qin Shuang about her talent earlier. Did you bring it up? Not yet. I'll ask once she's back down. The second he finished speaking, footsteps echoed from the stairwell. All 3 turned their heads at once. Qin Shuang descended the stairs slowly, her hair still damp and loose over her shoulders. She wore clothes Su Muxue had lent her, an oversized plain white hoodie and dark gray sweatpants, a little too big for her frame, lending her a lazy, relaxed air. Now that the dust and grime had been washed away, she looked entirely different from before. Back at the police station gate, Lin Yi had only seen a face caked in ash and dried blood, her features blurred behind a cold, hollow expression. Cleaned up, her skin was pale, not an unhealthy pallor, but the smooth, delicate white of fine porcelain. Her features carried a sharp, icy beauty, high cheekbones, a straight nose, thin vivid red lips, her entire face sculpted with sharp, defined angles as if carved from stone. Her eyes drew the most attention of all. Pale blue irises like a lake frozen solid, holding an innate sense of detachment whenever she met someone's gaze. The coldness wasn't forced, it was simply her nature. She was a block of ice, standing close left you chilled, yet you couldn't help but want to draw near. To compare their looks, Su Muxue radiated sweet warmth, Chen Shui carried a sharp cold grace, and Qin Shuang balanced icy poise with subtle allure. The 3 women standing side by side possessed entirely distinct styles, yet each was stunning in her own way. Lin Yi stared for 2 seconds before sheepishly shifting his gaze away. Qin Shuang caught the small gesture, the corner of her mouth twitching faintly, though no smile surfaced. She walked over to the sofa and sat down in a single armchair. It seemed Lin Yi wasn't as mature as he made himself out to be. Deep down, he was still just a young guy. Qin Shuang relaxed noticeably after that. Finished washing up? Su Mushiue scooted over to her. Did you use the skincare products in the bathroom? That set of toner and moisturizer was left by the villa's previous owner. It's still unopened. I did. Qin Shuang's tone remained flat, yet Lin Yi caught the detail that she'd said she'd used them instead of brushing it off. Proof the products actually mattered to her. How was it? Any good? It's fine. Su Mushiue smiled. She hadn't spent much time with Qin Shuang, but after this brief exchange, she'd figured out her personality. Quiet, bad at expressing herself, yet far from truly cold. She was like a block of ice, hard and rigid on the surface, but liquid water beneath. Lin Yi cleared his throat. Qin Shuang, I need to ask you something. Qin Shuang turned to look at him. What's your talent? Qin Shuang fell silent for 2 seconds, not unwilling to answer, but carefully choosing her words. Ice magic, she said simply at last. Lin Yi raised an eyebrow. Magic? That's what the system labels it. Essentially, I can manipulate ice. Qin Shuang held out her right hand, palm facing upward. The air temperature plummeted instantly, and a perfect 6-pointed snowflake crystallized above her palm, glistening translucent white as it spun slowly in place. I have 3 usable skills right now: Ice Lance, Ice Wall, and Frost Nova. Ice Lance is single target damage, Ice Wall for defense, and Frost Nova slows all enemies in an area. Lin Yi stared at the snowflake for 2 seconds, then pulled a dagger out of his spatial storage and held it out. Stab this with your ice. Qin Shuang glanced at him and didn't take the blade. Instead, she conjured an ice shard the length of a finger and flicked it toward an empty mug on the coffee table. The ice lance pierced straight through the cup, freezing it solid in an instant, a thick layer of white frost coating its surface. Lin Yi picked up the mug to examine it. The ice shard had cut clean through the ceramic, yet the cup hadn't shattered. The ice had sealed every crack shut. Decent piercing power. He set the mug back down. How sturdy is your ice wall? I've never properly tested it, Qin Shuang replied. But it can definitely block ordinary zombies' claws. Lin Yi nodded. No wonder she'd once held the #1 spot on the survivor leaderboard back in their old world. Ice magic combined attack, defense, and crowd control all in one. While its raw power didn't look explosive at this stage, magic itself was a massive advantage in a zombie apocalypse. Regular undead possessed 0 magic resistance. Ice lances pierced them as easily as tofu. Does your talent have any other special traits? Qin Shuang's expression shifted, not turning colder, but growing utterly serious. The system classifies it as a growth-type talent. Once I reach level 10, I can undergo a second enhancement and awakening. A beat of silence hung over the living room. Every person present understood the immense value of those 7 words. Most survivors' talents were fixed for life. Spatial storage stayed just spatial storage. Universal telekinetic body remained unchanged no matter how many levels its user gained. Growth-type talents were entirely different. They evolved at key thresholds, awakened brand new powers, and unlocked entirely separate skill branches. Qin Shuang was only level 4 now, and her ice magic could already freeze a mug solid. What would she be capable of once she hit level 10 and awakened her full power? Leaning back against the sofa, Lin Yi's mind was already racing through calculations. Do you need a lot of experience to level up? A great deal, Qin Shuang answered. Twice as much as standard talents. Figures, you get what you pay for. Lin Yi pulled out the mutated core he looted from the tyrant zombie and tossed it lightly in his palm. Will this help you level? The moment Qin Shuang laid eyes on the core, her gaze sharpened dramatically. She took the core into her hand, and a steady stream of warm energy flowed straight into her body. It will, she said, her voice softening slightly. Mutated cores hold massive reserves of spirit energy, which converts directly into experience points. A Class B core like this is enough to push me halfway to the next level. Aren't you going to ask what I want in return? She questioned him. No need. Lin Yi stood to his feet. You live here and help us defend the compound. That's repayment enough. Qin Shuang stared at him for 2 full seconds before slipping the core into her pocket. Watching the exchange, Su Mushiue's lips tugged upward into an involuntary smile. She admired how Lin Yi treated others kindly without seeking praise, giving valuable gifts without making the recipient feel indebted. Qin Shuer also watched them, her eyes darting back and forth between Lin Yi and Qin Shuang several times before settling on Su Muxue, a vague, unreadable emotion lingering in her gaze. I'm tired, Qin Shuang suddenly stood up. Which room is mine? Second door on the left upstairs, Su Muxue told her. Blankets are inside the wardrobe. Qin Shuang nodded, took 2 steps toward the staircase, then paused again. Lin Yi. Thank you for the core. Her tone stayed muted as she spoke her gratitude, yet Lin Yi spotted a faint flesh creep across the tip of her ear, subtle but unmistakable. Qin Shuang climbed the stairs, her footsteps fading down the hallway. Only 3 people remained in the living room. Su Muxue curled up on the sofa holding Xiao Bao. The young dragon had fallen fast asleep, letting out tiny soft snores. Chen Shuer sat beside her, cradling her long-cooled bowl of soup without taking a single sip. Lin Yi, Chen Shuer spoke up. Yeah, aren't you upset about giving away that Class B core? The core would have just sat and used otherwise. Why not turn it into usable combat strength? Lin Yi retrieved the engineer's notebook from his storage and flipped to the page detailing automated turret maintenance. Once the extreme cold fully sets in, we're going to need her. Ice magic grows far more powerful in frigid temperatures. She alone can hold the line of half a squad. Chen Shuer fell quiet for a moment, then nodded in understanding. Su Muxue yawned widely. I'm worn out too. Shuer, come on, let's head upstairs to sleep. You go first. I'll be up in a minute. Su Muxue stood and carried Xiao Bao toward the stairs. At the landing, she glanced back at Lin Yi, opening her mouth as if to say something, then thought better of it and continued upward.